Snap out of it. Thought-provoking, challenging the popular perspectives, critical of today's opinions. We go all the way in deep. What's a thought's worth if thoughts must conform to ill-conceived theories and so-called orthodox beliefs, twisted opinions of hypocrisy? How do we reach new heights? Ascend to higher realizations, activate the powers of abstract reasoning? We must break the chains that hold us down from celestial flights. Face what you think you know with what you have yet to know. For the moment, never mind how you believe things ought to be. We must revolutionize our minds for there to be a clear way to unify. For that to happen, we must have a seat at the table all over again. Just making sure the light works. Unlock the keys of scrutiny. Revive what it means to pursue knowledge. Manifest the God in we, you and me. Welcome to your wake-up call. Soul Journey of Life, Conscious Black Social Media. The LightDome.
Hello everyone, my name is John Harvey.
And my name is Eleanor Harvey.
J. Harvey Realty Company. We are located at 15704 Waterloo Road in Cleveland, Ohio, in the Waterloo District. We have been in business for 32 years. There is nothing no greater than helping people secure the American dream, a home. We have also helped many investors buy income properties. We specialize in helping people get prepared to purchase homes by getting them pre-approved. When they start looking, they will be able to purchase their home. So if you're thinking of buying or selling, think J. Harvey Realty Company.
Quest man, a chosen.
Need help minding your own business? Cardamom cloves, nature's tea. From the shops on Soul Journey of Life, blessings in every cup.
My bad. I thought the shop was closed. I was just like, this is my work. What's this right here? Hold on. Hey, got an idea. Check this out. What are you waiting for? Let go. Fees and flows for them with the head still attached to their shoulders. I make amends for what I failed to see until I got a little older. Versatility is a necessity in today's business. Take that as a proverb. You may think it's awkward, but it's really just what I observe. Never mind whatever you heard. I'm quest man, so must flow in sync with the flight of a carnivorous bird. I get high off the knowledge of how to spin around my myrrh. Kaaba, Allahu Akbar, blessed when I honor my mama and Baba. Disrespect them and it's you I clobber. Aha! Just when you thought all those rainy days will keep me waiting, I rise up off the ground like one snapped out of being medically sedated. I
salute the melanated, the froze flocks and the braided. Naturally, I make it a habit of keep on loving me, so I'm never bothered by the hatred. You see the frames, but I'm that nerd that's naughty by nature. Ice water vapor, flight of the navigator. Put that on paper, sign right there. I tickle the feminine in the wind, tasting candy coated raindrops enough to make your head spin. Brother, this is not a ring you really want to get in. I'm a wordsmith, make a nerve switch. After you heard this, you might just want to roll another. Hold up, as I spit for the righteous, yeah, you might need to pass that as we battle the current crisis. I see red and blue lights in the streets. I bow my head because the fallen carry the same blood my heart beats. Hold it down, UNIFY. Hold it down. Hold it down, UNIFY. Hold it down.
Spin that pluralistic, high quality gold subtone submission. My flow is sadistic. Call me the wordsmith. Keys to the untold stories that bring your passion into glory. Educating the sun, moon, and youth. The universal which introduces logic and nice ideologies. Flying on philosophies, carrying the baby of a dying breed. Correlating ancestors to restore the community. Praying on the cloud, kneeling on my knees, soaring on cosmic energies. To reverse the mindset of the ignorant, building abundance and breaking down generational curses. As I smirk, giving you positive hurt. Rebuking the vapor that we breathe in and calibrates our mental to damage, disfigure, disturb that thought process, sorting out the weak. Seeking to kill, still and destroy. The blessings made on a stone of exhilarating cake that celebrates the victory set out for the world. Exhilarate prosperity.
Hold it down, UNIFY. Hold it down. Hold it down, UNIFY.
Gathering my collectiveness. Nico B.
Yes, indeed. This is your brother Abdul Adu, aka Questman, coming at you live. Soul Journey of Life, Conscious Black Social Media. I'd like to begin by greeting you with these words. Assalamu alaikum, shalom, hotep, peace, and blessings be with you. And welcome. If you don't mind, I'm going to turn this fan on low. Like that, as it gets a little warm. All right. To begin with, I'd like to be able to salute all those in the community who are continuing doing the necessary work and who continue to stand on a true cause. That is the cause of Black unity, the cause of self-determination, liberation, fighting for reparations, and even the unification of a people. So I salute all those involved because this is definitely not an easy fight, but it is a fight that can be won. Now, we've got our tasks of the day. I would encourage you to be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to, pass this around, get the word out, and perhaps get others involved because we like to be able to build. And, one of the best ways to build is with like minds. The main program of today will be dealing with the review and the reading and the review of the 0% Secrets of the United States, the Power of Trust, Nationality, Banking and Zero Taxes. That's the title of the book. And the author, Duval Day. But before we do that, I have some things that need to be discussed, a bit of house cleaning as well. Among those things is to encourage you, if you have not become a subscriber of the platform of Soul Journey of Life, as you see right here on your screen, I would encourage you to become a subscriber. Um, and the more of you that do, the more of you that are supporters of the community, supporters of solid activists, supporters of Black unity. This is the platform for us to be involved in, to support, to join. And this is the environment that we that's designed or created for us to be able to have, you know, a conversation where we can tell our story, you understand, without, you know, hurting anyone's feelings, without, you know, someone trying to twist the truth of the stories, but we can share and build in, you know, as a community of people, you understand, respecting one another and in a conscious way, conscious Black social media. I also want to invite brothers who are fathers. I also want to invite brothers who are fathers to a group that I, you know, I imagine, has been in my heart for some time now, especially given my own circumstances, being challenged as a father. But in Soul Journey of Life, there is a group that I would like to invite other fathers to sign up and join, because I'd like to be able to not only establish a circle of conversation, but to gather remedies, you understand, resources, including intellectuals, you know, be they attorneys or whatnot, people who can who can participate in a conversation favoring fathers, you understand? And I'm talking about Black fathers. Fathers in general in this country are kind of dealing with a unique problem. That's not to say that anybody else is not having a problem of their own. But me being a father, you know, I feel in my heart, and based upon my observation, that I need to, you know, not only just, you know, bring my own complaints, but I also should look at the interest of other fathers who might be suffering or confronting a similar problems. And you'd be surprised at the challenges that we face and how little family support we may get, or even community support, because often just being a man, we're kind of, you know, we've got this stigma of, you know, being brave and strong, and often you don't know the pain. You may not know the pain that a father goes through, especially when it comes to his most beloved children, and when the challenges that he faces revolve around his children. So I would like to encourage and invite others to participate in this group. I want to try to, like I said, I want to build the environment there. And as we build the environment, you know, start to develop and establish resources, you know, information, communication with one another, with fathers, from father to father. And perhaps we might be able to, you know, bring about solutions. You understand? Realistic solutions. You know, I'm not one of those who just like to, you know, have circles to talk and talk and talk. I like to build circles where we talk and then we look and explore ground, you know, ground level solutions. You understand? And then go about that. You know, realistic living solutions. And it can't happen if there's no unity. You know, just like whatever we may be striving for as melanated, as Black community, as Pan-African, you know, whatever, you know, element of this you find yourself fitting, we can't do it alone as individuals. You understand? It's just impossible. And you may be a supporter of, this group or that group, but, you know, sometimes, you know, when you build alliances, you strengthen your ties, you strengthen your ability to be effective. You understand? And we have to look at things that way so we can become a bigger body about a common cause. And the stronger and bigger we are, the more effective we can be. So, yeah, not only am I encouraging you to join souljourneyoflife.org, but also when you do become a member, if you are a father, a Black father, to join Black Fathers Collab and see what kind of circle of thought we can build and see what we can do to become effective. Because at the end of the day, there's nothing like a father. You understand? And, there's no substitute for a father. I know people, like to say, they're both parents at the same time, but it's just not true. There's no substitute for a mother. There's no substitute for the love of a father. You understand? And, so protecting what that means is vital to the family structure. The Black family structure is one of the very things that's illed us in our times, is the absence of the father in the family. And while, there are, communities that will speak about, Black fathers being incarcerated and, or under, unemployed and things like that, you'll find, if you do the research, that there are more fathers out there who aren't incarcerated, you understand, and are employed, but often they confront and encounter a very harsh system. Because, the thing about systemic racism is that it doesn't just attack us on one level. It's not just, police brutality. It's not just, being poisoned with, bogus vaccines and things like that. These are all part of the same fight, but also to break down, to emotionally break down the father. You understand? Not just financially or any other, but even just emotionally break down the father, to make you weak so that you give up. And then in so giving up, you give up on your seeds, and then they can take over your seeds. You understand? And repeat the same madness that many of us have grown up in ourselves. Peace and blessings and welcome. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. So yes, indeed, if you know of fathers, Black melanated fathers, who might benefit off of coming together and having real solution objective conversations, I would encourage you to invite them to souljourneyoflife.org. And once they've joined, subscribe to souljourneyoflife.org, which is free. There's no charge to join souljourneyoflife.org. And then once they do, put in a request to join Black Fathers Collab, as you see right there on your screen. Okay. So we've got our work cut out. And I encourage you, the community, to join Soul Journey of Life in general, because we need to be able to be in our own environment and to have our own conversation. You understand? I mean, I'm not sure how important many of us, understand this to be, but it's so critical, because, even to this very day, I still see the same complaints, the same concerns about how we communicate amongst ourselves. You understand? And it's annoying when we can't even have a live video sometimes without people invading and trolling our videos because they don't like what they're hearing, or they don't find it relevant to them, or perhaps they are one of those amongst our enemies from amongst the races. Which brings me to another thing that I'm going to mention to you. I do intend to establish a live at some point that is titled, "Are You a Racist?" And this is a live that I would like to be able to invite people from among other races who are not Black to be able to question them. You understand? To question them, because you'd be surprised, and maybe they might even be surprised to realize that they are, in fact, a racist, even though they may not identify themselves with their words. But I believe that through the course of questioning, through the course of a sincere conversation, you understand, if you're communicating with a well-to-do person, meaning they're not troublemaking or problematic per se, you'd be surprised that still they are racist. And it's a very hard thing to break from. I know many of us, like to be seen as friends and allies and supporters of melanated people or black people. But often even them, sometimes even them are more racist than some of the people that you would point out and say, oh, that person's a racist. One of the things that I want to put out at this point is the knowledge that, let me just say this, that it is not possible, because some of you might think that, well, what about you? What about what you're doing? You're always talking about black people and this and that. Okay, but it's not possible for a black person to be racist. And you can challenge that if you'd like, but understand that in order for anyone to be racist, they have to be first empowered. Because a person it's like a dog on a chain. He can bark and bark and bark, but that's all he can do. He can't bite, he can't scratch, he can't attack. All he can do is bark. And the bark in and of itself is not offensive or is not able to harm. But what can harm is when now he's free, it has the power to attack. So in the case of the black community, the melanated community, we aren't currently in a position of demonstrable power. You understand? We can't, do something that will affect the powers that be in a way that would cause them to be harmed because of, us doing something to them on the basis of race alone. So the melanated people cannot be racist. And I actually believe that if we were in power, something contrary to the beliefs of those who are supporters of systemic racism, I believe that if we were in power, that we still would not be racist, because it's not in our nature. If you haven't noticed that whenever something does happen to us, you're critical, we tend to be more forgiving than vengeful. And that can't be said to be the same for other people. Some people will hunt you down because of racism. All they need to know, and if you look in history, if you doubt my words, look in history, all they needed to know was somebody saying something, making a claim. Let a white lady make a claim, and it be false. Let her just say that she felt sad or hurt or offended, and they will hunt you down because of their racism. So, I say look forward to live presentations. I wanted to be live because there's a psychology behind this, and I want to explore it. I want to be able to have sound conversations with people of other races, and so we can venture to explore whether or not they are racist. And again, it's a hard path to tread to find one not racist. It's a hard path to tread to find one not racist. So the book that we are reading, that we're digging into today, is actually a book that was recommended to be read. This book was instructed to be read. It was instructed to the supporters of Brother Grandmaster Jay. Who is Brother Grandmaster Jay? Also known as John Fitzgerald Johnson. I would say that he is a courageous black activist, and he's also the supreme leader of the NFAC and the UBKN. So Grandmaster Jay is currently behind bars in prison after being wrongfully convicted. The remains continue to hope and support from the community to see him free as he approaches the opportunity of appeal. And I encourage you for more. Let me put this up here so you can see the what you want to call it, the website link. Let me put it right here, right here. If you want more information, I encourage you to go to that website right there that you see, justiceforgmj.com. And I will tell you, that's probably your most authentic source of any information pertaining to Brother Grandmaster Jay. You also have some supporters that are authentic. And I'm going to say it like this. I think that we need to be in the habit of authenticating one another, especially when we know each other to be true sources. And of those people who are strong at this, I would say you have the YouTubers, Sister K Money. You also have the YouTubers TNT Mike and Jazz. This is just to name a few YouTubers that I would say are trustworthy sources, outside of the website, that might be able to have a credible conversation about matters pertaining to Grandmaster Jay and whatnot. But I'm going to share something with you so you can get an idea of what to watch out for, just so you can be aware, because there are people out there who desire to imitate Brother Grandmaster Jay in order to, whether it be for clout chasing, whether it be for monetary gains. They will hold nothing back from imitating this brother, including going to the extreme of using AI. You understand? To sway would-be supporters towards their gimmicks and shenanigans. Let's check this out real quick.
I hope this message finds you all well. I wanted to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude to each and every one of you for your incredibly generous support. I am truly overwhelmed by the outpouring of love and care that I have received. Receiving the money through MoneyGram for my commissary has made a tremendous difference in my life. Your contributions have not only eased the financial burden, but have also provided me with a sense of comfort and support during this challenging time. Your kindness and thoughtfulness mean the world to me. Words cannot fully express how grateful I am for your unwavering support. Your generosity has lifted my spirits and reminded me of the goodness that exists in the world. Your willingness to stand by me during this difficult period is a true testament to the strength of our bond. Please know that I am deeply touched by your selflessness and will always carry your kindness in my heart.
What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more.
Yes, indeed, family. So, that's an example of those out there who are trying to benefit and make a mockery off of the conditions that our brother Grandmaster Jay is currently in. So watch out for those type of people, and I would advise you to ignore them, and to or if you have to do anything, report them, because their information, their content is false and misleading, and it's also representing someone's character without their permission or without right. You understand? So make sure you do report such individuals that are out there doing these type of things. In addition, for those who are desiring to show support to Brother Grandmaster Jay, you would do well to go to the GoFundMe, the Grandmaster Jay Legal Defense Fund, and show your support by donating there. And I salute all those who you see there as of at least a day ago and so on, have been showing their continued support to the brother. And as you can see, these efforts help towards his legal defense team. See, now I am a person who likes to move in a way that I believe is involving myself in supporting the causes in the black community, wherever they be, and whoever it's regarding, that are people who have shown themselves to be true to the cause, true to the cause, and yet they find themselves in conflicting situations, even to the extent of facing life in prison, you understand, or facing life or even a death penalty. There's an example of a brother like this that some of us know about by the name of Otha Wallace. Otha Wallace was a person who was a heavy community supporter, you understand, heavily involved in the community of his area, and was known to be, a courageous, supporting black man and father. Unfortunately, he's behind bars and he is facing serious but false charges. We're hoping that his legal team will be able to have the strength and the backing by the Most High to be able to set him free. I want to encourage that if you would like to participate in showing your support to Brother Ozone, aka Otha Wallace, that you consider taking a look at his not his GoFundMe, but his donation webpage, which is otho.org. As you see right there, this is otho.org, and you can go to the page. It'll look just like this. You'll see this movable part right here that shows you the current amount that has been donated up to the present point, including the amount of donations that have been made. And similar to GoFundMe, you'll see like the recent donations there. So I encourage you to show your support to the brother, because he deserves to be free and he deserves to be with his children. And just like me, myself being a father, any day that a father is away from his children, any day that those children are without their father is critical. We have to stop this idea that it's no big deal to be without the father. Just like you need the nurturement of your mother, you need your mother. You also need your father. You also need your father. These aren't, what do you want to call it, optional peoples. You understand? Your mother's not optional. Your father's not optional. It's unfortunate some of us find ourselves in orphanages where we've lost our parents. But, and that's a critical situation. And some of us do make it out of these scenarios. Some of us do have mothers who are strengthened by the Most High, and so they're able to raise notable children. But that's not common. It's not common for single parent success. When you look at the rates for whether it be a single father, single mother, it's not common. It's a very hard struggle. You will find that many single parent households, the children end up growing up being quite the opposite of the type of woman or man useful to society. This is what you'll find. So the black family would do well by doing what it takes and reinforcing ourselves with the proper knowledge of the importance of a mother and a father established household. There is no substitute. There is nothing greater than the household that has both your mother and your father. So, yes, we need to get this brother home. And I salute the mother of these children for continuing to hold it down, because these things are not easy. It's not easy, for one, that you see your father, that she sees her husband behind bars, and with the knowledge that his life could be taken, without any justice, his life could be taken. And that would mean that these children would be without a father, knowing that their father's life was taken unjustly. So yes, I encourage that you show your support to this platform. I also want to give a shout out to those in the community who I believe have been strong in activity as activists. Some activists, they're just actively talking, but they're not active in the world. You understand? They they're not supporting any cause. You don't see them on the scene, where the cause is taking place, or where people who are about the cause or leading the cause are active. Instead, you may see them on YouTube or Instagram or something like that. But of the people who I have been observing as of late and have a great deal of respect for is a brother by the name of Ramzu. And I believe that another person who's also a strong activist by the name of Sister Akoti is involved in either interviewing Brother Ramzu or presenting. There's some type of presentation that she intends to put out. I think it might be today, if it hasn't already happened yet. But you can check that out on Sister Akoti Speaks YouTube channel. And if you want to continue to be motivated to support, the UBKN movement, the movement founded by Brother Grandmaster Jay, I would encourage you to take a good look and listen to the grooves the groovy channel of Sister K Money, because you will definitely be motivated after spending at least, a half hour to an hour or a whole show, whatever, listening to her presentations and the music that she likes to inspire the community with. So there you have that. And I don't necessarily like putting this in the same stream of these other donations that I've just presented to you, but I don't really have a choice. So I am going to also share this screen right here. I also have a GoFundMe, and I encourage you to show your support of this GoFundMe as well, as this is supporting a cause that I'm involved in, and it does involve my own children here and abroad. It does involve, my endeavors regarding, being able to build bridges and return to loved ones. It's bigger than I can even explain right now. But it's of such a gravity, considering that I'm actually facing, even legal opposition. You understand? There's a lot involved, but your support is needed. And this particular battle is clearly not one that I will be able to succeed with alone. And often that tends to be the most frustrating part about any of this, is fighting a fight alone, and you don't have real family support. You don't have real support, from really anybody. It's kind of like you're going in on it alone, and that gets real frustrating because it puts you in a situation where few know what you're going through. Few are able to identify the pain that you're suffering, because there's no one there to share it with you. So here is an opportunity to support a Black father, you understand, to support a Black brother of your community. This is an opportunity to do that. This is an opportunity to get even spiritually involved. I encourage you to show your donation, share it, and get others involved. And I salute all those who have already offered their donations. I really appreciate it. Asante Sana. Okay. So I want to let me go back here. I've got some reminding to do when it comes to the cause that we suffer today. Some things that I would like us to keep in our mind, even as we read what we're reading today. Some things I would like us to keep in mind. If you have doubts about what Black unity is about, if you have doubts about the importance of us coming together and strengthening ourselves, fortifying ourselves with all the tools, resources, alliances, bridge building efforts that it takes to be unified as a Black community, I would encourage you to inspire yourself, if for lack of better words, when it comes to looking at the footage that I intend to show you, because these are some of the reasons amongst the many reasons why we need to be unified. Give me a second here. These are just some of the reasons why we need to be unified. And I believe that this is also some of the reasons why we continue to suffer, because we're not unified. I don't believe these things could happen to us had we been, had we been unified, had we had a stronger sense of unity. Yeah, let's do it this way. So what you're seeing here, I'm going to show you a few IG clips of things that have been going on. Some of these are days or weeks or whatnot old, but I want to keep them in our memory, keep them in our thoughts. Let me see. I think I'm going to have to play the sound this way. So give me a second here, because I don't have the sound directly connected. So hopefully you can hear it. I'm going to let it replay so you can see it from the beginning. Let's let it replay so you can see it from the beginning. What you're seeing, as you see in the comment there, the NYPD arresting a 10-year-old girl, not an 18-year-old girl, not a 17-year-old girl, not a 34-year-old woman, a 10-year-old girl. Now get that, take that in for size. A 10-year-old girl. Okay. So I'll pause that one. Now we'll go to the next. All right. Just watch. So you see what happened there. Let's go on to the next one. I want you to see this one more time. This wife, right? This is the wife of this man that's getting cuffed up. All she's doing is standing there recording this tussle that's going on between her husband and the officers. She's not committing any crime. She's not stepping out of line or doing anything wrong whatsoever for this to happen. But we need to understand that a message is going on here. See, sometimes we forget that, these aren't just random events or something that just happened to happen. But you need to understand how systemic racism works. Sometimes the perpetrators, the movers of systemic racism, they want to send you a message. They want you to see something because they know you're going to record it. They know you're going to see this. They know it's going to be on social media. These people aren't idiots. So when you know that they're doing this in open public, that's telling you that they are sending you, black man, black woman, a message. And in this particular message, what do you see? You see a father being handcuffed. And immediately after he's secured and handcuffed, they brutalize the wife. What message is that to the black community? So he's handcuffed, he's secured. Now they're going for the wife. And again, like I said, these officers are not fools. They're fully aware that the public is seeing them and watching them, that everybody can see them, but they're also aware that nobody's going to do anything about it. They're not afraid of being sacrificial lambs. That means put up for the chopping block of losing their jobs, being fired. They're not concerned about any of that. They're following orders. They're following orders. This is what they came to do. This was the message they came to manifest, to demonstrate. You need to ask yourself why. And then once you observe the answer, which is a very clear answer, what next? What's the solution? How do you take in the message? So I have something to say to the brothers. Where the heck are you at? This is the thing. Let me say something. Let me put this down. Put this down. Because this is the part where we come in. This is the part where we come in. Give me a second here. Close that. Close that one. Okay. This is the part where we come in, family. I wouldn't care if, whatever problem you may have with any of the sisters in your neighborhood. If you know that these sisters are single moms, I'm not sure who the mother of this children was. All I know is what you just saw right there. That, man, that was somebody's daughter. And whatever the case may be, even if they had a mother and father in that family, we need to position ourselves to see ourselves as responsible for one another. If it's a single mother with children, brothers, keep an eye. You don't have to go run game or nothing. Like just look out. You understand? Make sure, okay, things is cool. Carry on. You understand? Everything ain't got to be personal or intimate. Sometimes it's just, we need to make these general basic responsibilities amongst ourselves. Just looking out for one another. Shoot, this sister over here, she's a single mom. She's got children. Let me keep an eye on things. I ain't got to be all nosy and all up in the business. Just look, okay, they're cool. Let me carry on what I got to do. Just turn your head and take a look. Look across the street. Look in the parking lot. Do you see anything happening? Do you see anything out of place? Is somebody sitting in their car looking like they're looking at her too, and they shouldn't be? I'm just saying we got to reform our revolutionize our way of thinking about one another. We're each other's responsibility. It's not someone else's concern. She may even tell you it's none of your business. So what? Make it your business. Because we got this mentality nowadays. Nobody wants to be in each other's business. Nobody wants someone else in their business. Be in their business anyway. Be like, look, sister, I'm just making sure things is cool. Get whatever flack she wants to give you. If you're a soldier, soldiers learn how to take flack. Because, the thing about a soldier, you get trained to go in towns, to go in the neighborhoods, to get peace, to establish peace. You don't know how the folks are going to receive you. They may not like you. Throw water on you, throw something on you don't like, but you didn't come there for that. You came there to do your job. You came there to follow your orders. Somehow, some way, we've got to seriously re-educate ourselves, reprogram our minds to see each other as a responsibility. No matter what, no matter how, like I said, it doesn't matter what the potential victim feels about you securing the parameter. It's your job, and you're there to do your job, whatever the case may be. Two brothers walk up and down the street. Don't worry about if somebody's paying you or not. If you worry about that, get a GoFundMe established or something and walk up and down the street, chop it up with each other, but you're making sure that the scene is safe. This child was found in an alley. When's the last time some of you patrolled the alleys in your neighborhood? I'm just saying, family, all these real thorough brothers and sisters in the alley has a child dead in the alley. A 2-year-old child dead in the alley. How does that happen? So I'm just saying, to me, this is the responsibility of us brothers. Bottom line. I mean, and any sister who's solid about it, but the thing is at the end of the day, it's an obligation upon our brothers. It's an option for the sisters. The sister, you can if you want, you don't have to if you don't want. But brothers, we have to. I mean, I don't care what book you're reading. If you're reading the Bible, it's in there. You read the Quran, it's in there. You look at any type of system of community, it's in there. You can't have a successful community if it doesn't exist. We have to have this type. We have to have a conversation about this or something, man. All right, so I'm gonna get into this book. We're gonna get into this book. What much we can get into it for today, and kind of go over it a little bit. That's our task for today, all right? So let's go up here, do that, and that. As you know, the title of the book, excuse me, the 0% Secrets of the United States, the Power of Trust, Nationality, Banking, and Zero Taxes by Duval Day. Now, I got my copy from Kindle, so that I know that they have it at Kindle. I haven't been able to find a free PDF version, so I went ahead and purchased the Kindle book, online book. So that's just one source. I know there are probably other sources, but you know, this was the most convenient at the time, given the time that the instructions to read it were presented. This again was instructed by Brother Grandmaster Jay of reading this book. And one thing I want to point out, you know, one of the things you can learn about somebody, to get an idea about somebody's perspective in life, is to reflect on the books that they read. Think about the books that they select, the selections that they choose, because it says a lot about what they're focused on, what they're observing, what means something to them. You understand? And by the way, I don't usually do this, but I do have an IG channel. My IG is TheLightDome, and I'm gonna try to put that out there more, because I do want to present more bits of content there, because that's another media avenue, and we need to get the communication out by any means necessary. So we need to get this. We need to be on our job. So here's the book, and we're gonna go over it. I'm just kind of setting up the page here. Now, what you can do, I don't know if you're able to turn this down here. I don't know if you're able to enlarge your screen or whatnot, but I'll do my best to try to make things clear. And by the way, before I even read this, and this is for everything that I've shown in this presentation that I am not the owner of, the content that has been used throughout this live that I am not the owner of is used with fair use intended. And, you know, because it's obvious that we're using this for educational, nonprofit, research, scholarship, teaching, reporting, and so on. So keep that in mind as we even read this book. And we're going to go into the introduction. So I've only skimmed through this book. I've only, you know, got, you know, some of the early portions of it, but we're going to try to go through this as best as we can. There are some pretty interesting parts through the book that I was able to kind of stood out to me. If you have any comments about anything you hear me read, be sure to put them in the commentary, the chat panel. I am going to put the invite link in, so that way, if you do have any comments pertaining to the topic, that's the book that we're reading, you can join in and we can talk about it together. So it's that way. It's not just only, you know, the perspective of Brother Questman, but, you know, there are other people in the community And you'd be surprised at what happens when our minds collab. So yeah, let's go ahead and put the invite link in there. Mind you, this is Soul Journey of Life, conscious Black social media. So that means we try to represent a high standard of character when it comes to how we communicate. As I would say, talk in a way that you would approve your children listen to. So the introduction, we're going to skim over the introduction. Says most people are not entirely sure what they want to do or how to go about accomplishing it. So they resort to getting an education, as if that's the cure-all to one's wealth aspiration. Graduating high school or college can be a huge accomplishment for most citizens, permanent residents, and foreign nationals in the United States, especially if it means being the first to graduate in the family, being led to believe that the world's treasures are within arm's reach, and so many options for success are now available. However, selecting the right path can be a course in itself. Very true. After all, time is short and time is money. Just as all people have innate existential drive to understand who they are and why they are here, they also desire to create generational wealth. Some will be fortunate enough to locate a reputable firm, put in their time, and reach retirement, or even learn a trade to one day run a successful business. For some, not so much. Others have been in the work field with or without secondary education, creating one financial plan after another, renewing, paying off student loans and credit card debt repeatedly. For some reason, the debt doesn't go away fast enough to see a difference in life. Life feels stagnant. If only wages could cover enough monthly expenses to save enough money to eventually fire the boss and start the right business to earn money needed to pay off debts and finally experience freedom. Pardon me a second here. Got to break out the triple latte. So how does one start a business? I could feel the interesting qualities of this book already, just with the way the words are coming at us. There are two types of classes in the world: the 1%ers and the 99%ers. Indeed, it is no secret that the best Fortune 500 companies have high-end attorneys who manage the step-by-step setup process for their clients' businesses, and at a hefty service charge that most people may not immediately be fortunate enough to afford at first. However, vigilance and a never-ending studious mindset position the individuals into the 1%ers realm. Many have the investor mentality, and have thought long and hard about joining the 90% of the world's millionaires who earn their wealth through real estate investing. Overall, people are just tired of the 9-to-5 Monday through Friday, or what has become a more desirable work schedule for the 410s. The 410s. Certainly, time is something that cannot be refunded, and every second deserves to be spent efficiently and by choice. Again, time is short, and time is money. Everyone has either thought about going to the banks for cash to consolidate or invest. However, the cash is managed with the attached interest. How the cash is managed with the attached interest is very important. Either borrowers pay the debt and have fun, or borrow to spend for a profit, which in turn pays the debt and a good life. This is what intelligent investors would call good debt. Everyone who has prepared to enter into a repayment agreement has planned financial strategies before the loan application is approved. Although FICO scores may not be at their best, with high hopes, it should be good enough for the bank to provide funding, right? So even off the top, I'm getting that this book is revolving around finances, economy, business management. All of these are ingredients that are essential to our community. If you look at every great leader that we've ever had, one of them I can name off the top, Marcus Garvey. He was heavy into the business endeavor. In fact, that you could say that was the backbone of his entire movement. That had there been no business ethic, there would be no Garvey. The business ethic was like his heartbeat. You understand, to everything that he was standing on. When we are firmly grounded in a solid business structure, a solid where we have a thriving economy, we can be successful in pretty much any other aspect. And we've learned this. But the thing that took place is that, when we started to become economically successful, we learned that through history that the powers that be felt salty. They felt some kind of way. And so they went to sabotage our efforts, even taking our lives in the process. Which means that not only is our ethic, our business, our economic interests important to invest in, but the protection of it, which means that once we have a thriving economy, once we have solid business structure, we've got to protect it as well. So that way it can't be taken from us. It can't be sabotaged. We can't be overpowered or overwhelmed so that all of our efforts become in vain. Going into the bank, continuing, can be nerve-wracking, whether it's in person with a local banker or via an online application. So many people have experienced bankers explain credit denials with comments such as, "It looks like TransUnion and Equifax scores are exceptional. However, the Experian score does not meet our requirements. If a cosigner is available, we may be able to look to move forward." Sounds familiar, right? The uneasy feeling of credit rejection from the bank is a terrible, let's do it this way, experience. Having to involve a family member or a trustworthy friend to provide their creditworthiness is even worse. If traditional funding fails, then what else is there for a real estate investment deal? Indeed, all beginner real estate investors have scoured online to find many methods of no money, no credit investment strategies from an endless list of real estate gurus. I encourage you, family, because I can see where this is heading. Take a look at this introduction. Take a look at the introduction and read thoroughly through it, because it's pointing out, some of the myths that we hold on to regarding, some of us have this get rich quick mentality with certain things. We look at all the things that people say, well, if you do this, you'll get rich in no time. Go into real estate, or you'll see some of these online schemes or whatnot. This section is looking into that direction. And this is the introduction. I want to get into the book itself. So I know other times I would read things line for line, going through the entire book. But this particular time and henceforward, my intention is to dab into it, commentate, and we have to do the homework ourselves as we read. But hopefully us going about it this way will give us enough inspiration so that every time we meet to read, we kind of have something with us from our last session, our previous session. Here's chapter 1, the United States Corporation. I know some friends that this is all they talk to me about, which, it is a big deal, but it's like the main part of the conversation. And that can be tiring sometime when every time you meet these friends, I don't know if they're in this live now, but they may be, because they mention an interest of watching it. But when you meet them, it's like, well, you know what they're going to come at you with. The United States is a what? It's widespread that the United States is short for saying the United States of America. But how exactly can an entire country be on the same playing field as Apple, Amazon, Facebook, or Microsoft corporations? It is accurate, and Congress does not hide the truth in their codes and statutes. And I want to pause right there just to mention that for many of us who believe in that the powers that be have a body or an entity whose purpose is to serve us and protect us, this in and of itself would reveal to you, I'm talking about that United States is a corporation, would reveal to you that they are not here to serve you, black man and woman, or protect you, black man or black woman. They're here to serve the interest of the corporation. Now, if that just so happens to mean that a particular black family or a black person does get served and protected, it wouldn't be because they cared about you, but it would be because there's a greater agenda going on and they need this to be done this way. You understand? Sometimes, corporations will do things to calm the water. Sometimes a corporation will do things to stir things up. You understand? But all the same, at the end of the day, the security officer is there to make sure you don't take anything from Walmart. They don't care if you slip and fall. If it's seen on camera, then yeah, they're going to want to help you up. Now, let's say that the security guard is a well-to-do person. He might help you up just because that's his moral values. But generally speaking, if there's no gain, you can get yourself up. So, similarly, is the defense mechanisms of the powers that be. They're on the scene to protect the interest of the corporation, and that's it. The interest, whatever the game, the objective may be, you don't have anything to do with it in that aspect. You do have something to do with the interest of the corporation because you're how they make their profit. You, black man and black woman, you're how they make their profit. You're what's keeping their pockets full. Just like the gold mines and whatnot in Africa and the cheap labor that they're able to accrue from that, this is what keeps their pockets full. That's why, for example, when you see wars go on, some of the first actions that take place are the securing the resources. They can fight and do all kinds of stuff, but they're going to make sure that the first objective is to find and locate and secure the resources. Once they do that, they'll fiddle around however they will with the rest of the battle. And any casualties would be not because they were. Sometimes it's not even because of some of the other types of hatred, but because they want to secure the resources, and these people are either in the way or trying to hinder them from holding down the resources. This is how greedy these people are. This is how greedy this corporation is. You understand? Racism is just one of the various horses that they ride upon. You understand? Racism is profitable for them. It profits them to maintain racism, both in the sense of keeping us out of power, keeping us away from power, but also in the sense of there's money to be made by having an enemy. You understand? Just like in the movie, that if there has to be an adversary to make the movie worthwhile. Who's the bad guy? Who's the person that the main character has to deal with? You understand? Similarly, in society, there has to be an opponent, or they themselves, at times will present themselves as the hero, and then at other times make it known that we're also the villain. You understand? Depending on how it affects the corporation. Imagine this, and I'm gonna get back into reading this, but this is where this is leading me. Imagine this, right? Imagine one big country, one big corporation sees that it's about to lose its status. So it comes together like a G7 conference and say, well, look, they're losing steam over here. They're losing faith in our corporate establishment over here. We need a backup plan. We need to start to redirect their attention to something else. We need either an enemy or a hero. If they're seeing us as the enemy and it's impossible for them to see us any other way, then there has to be a hero somewhere else. And this hero has to do things so that people, so that the ground level people will reveal themselves as being the supporters of this external hero or this other country hero. You understand? So that way, when the powers that be shift from one corporation to another, you understand? It's like, when one company buys out another company and they change administrations. They still have all the resources there, but it's a new administration, new power, new men in charge. But the administration is still in the likeness of the former administration. Just you now took your attention and focused it on them and made them a hero. So how do you do that? Well, you need a victim. You need a victim. Let's make this country right here a victim. You, the people we want to be the hero now, you're going to make this a victim. We're going to make this a victim so that people will look up to you as the new hero. And that and your system of governance and whatnot will start to get more popularity, and people will start to turn their attention to you, and they will start to support you. And then when our version starts to wane and dwindle, we'll be able to maintain our power because we have been preparing for this moment all along with your corporation. You understand? With your corporation. How do they do this? Well, they know our hearts and minds. They know that we love ourselves, even though we may act like it over here that we don't. There's a side of us that we innately love ourselves. We love our image. We love the truths about our story. But for some reason, when it comes to manifesting it in this society, it comes out in the form of hating one another and being offended with one another and seeing one another as enemies. But imagine the new heroes say, well, look, we need to win their hearts. So how are they going to do that? Remember these characters that you've been learning about over there? Don't they look just like you? That's because they were you. See this Messiah? See how this Messiah looks? See how they look like you? That's because they were you. All along, it's always been you. And we know that. So then you say, oh, man, you see, these must be the good guys. So then you start supporting this faction, not realizing it's still the same body of people. Still the same body of people, different corporation, different infrastructure. Same body of people. Let's go back in time a bit real quick. Let's go back in time. Let's go back in time when the Catholic Church split into two parts. You had the Eastern Orthodoxy, you had the Western Orthodoxy. This country and many of its allies in Europe are in favor of the Western Orthodoxy. I understand that this country doesn't like to identify itself as a religious state, but its Pope is of the Western Orthodoxy. And how do you know it's also the Pope of the United States? Because anytime you officially revere something, you've made it, you've approved of it or sanctioned it as being an authority over you. The same thing when you meet kings or a monarchy of another country, when you identify them in a certain way as a superior, as I'm not just talking about your random signs of respect from one person to another, but when you acknowledge their position of authority in especially in the religious field, you're seeing that these people are relevant to also your establishment, not just Britain, not just what do you want to call it, Italy and the like, but all abroad. That's the Western Orthodoxy. But the Eastern Orthodoxy they were once one unified body. They broke up with particular differences. Something I would encourage us to look into. What is Eastern Orthodoxy when it comes to the so-called Catholic Church? What is Eastern Orthodoxy? How did it begin? Where did it come from? Who are its leaders and representations and whatnot? Saints and scholars. Who are these people? And then observe where their what do you want to call it? Where they are established. You understand? So, corporation. The United States is a corporation. Let's go at this again. The United States is what? It's widespread that the United States is short for saying the United States of America. But how exactly can an entire country be on the same playing field as Apple, Amazon, Facebook, or Microsoft Corporation? It is accurate, and Congress does not hide the truth in their codes and statutes. It may sound awkward to the majority because the elected officials never refer to the country as a company. The title, 28 U.S. Code 3002, Section 15, United States, means a federal corporation. The United States Corporation's Articles of Incorporation, file number 100009, was filed with the Secretary of State of New York, July 15, 1925, with its principal office in the Centennial Building, Tallahassee, Leon County. Section 3 and 4 states the maximum number of shares which this corporation is authorized to have outstanding at any time is 100. 100, each of which shares shall have a par value of $100. Section 3. The amount of capital with which the corporation will begin business is 500. Section 4. The certified copy of this imperative historical document can be obtained in Florida, revealing that the corporation is perpetual, meaning everlasting. This certificate provides that word right there, certificate. You need to pay attention to that word certificate because it permeates every aspect of our society. When you're born, you have a certificate, a birth certificate. Then you also have a number that's imprinted on a form of certificate. All of these items identifying you in association with this corporation. But for what purpose? Why would you need a certificate to identify you in association with this corporation? I'm telling you, family, there's so many brothers that have been and sisters that have been building on this. Pay attention. The certificate provides its directors as chief executive officer, chief financial officer, and secretary of the state's corporation. These individuals are the private officers, the public officers known as Donald Trump and Mike Pence, or Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. However, this document is indeed not the origin of the United States of America. In March of 1861, Abraham Lincoln gave his first inaugural speech. Surprisingly, the address translated to the English language from the Arabic language and many other treaties that the United States has with the Aboriginal and indigenous people. They were here in the North, South, and Central America long before Columbus. A straightforward search within the Library of Congress to find his speech titled Abraham Lincoln First Inaugural Address, which the first paragraph cites in compliance with a custom as old as the government itself. I appear before you to address you briefly and to take in your presence the oath prescribed by the Constitution of the United States to be taken by the president before he enters on the execution of this office. I do not consider it necessary at present for me to discuss those matters of administration about which there is no special anxiety or excitement. Apprehension seems to exist among the people of the southern states that by the accession of a Republican administration, their property and their peace and personal security are to be endangered. Pause. Listen to that part right there. He's talking about the southern states. You can answer this in the chat if you like, but what were some of the items that would be among the properties of the people of the southern states, if you know? And this is what as this is President Lincoln's first inaugural speech. So he's bringing to the attention in that speech the awareness that the state or the establishment is aware of the concerns of the southern states with their property and their peace and their personal security are to be endangered. There has never been any reasonable cause for such apprehension. Indeed, the amplest evidence to the contrary has all the while existed and been open to their inspection. It is found in nearly all the published speeches of him who now addresses you. I do but quote from one of those speeches when I declare that I have no purpose, directly or indirectly, to interfere with the institution of slavery in the United States where it exists. I believe I have no lawful right to do so, and I have no inclination to do so. Did you hear that? This is a rendering of Abraham Lincoln's first inaugural address. So I'm asking you, wherein, as you know, a lot of people like to revere Abraham Lincoln as having freed the blacks. But here he's telling he's given, what do you want to call it, an olive branch, so to speak, to the people of the South who are the opposition of the prominent views of the North. That look, I'm not trying to step on whatever you got going on down there. I'm not trying to step on any of that. Let's put that right there on the table. That's what he just look. I have no purpose, directly or indirectly, to interfere with what the institution of slavery in the states where it exists. I believe I have no lawful right to do so, and have no inclination to do so. Abraham Lincoln's first inaugural address, 1861. Some key notes to address regarding the president's speech. First, they are high tensions coming from the southern states regarding their property, i.e., what did I say? And I haven't even read this part, so I'm just saying. Look, if it's not obvious, yeah, we were the property, our ancestors. Very true. At least that's what they wanted to see us as. But at the end of the day, I believe that there's a greater story being told that includes our redemption. Okay. Their property, i.e., their slaves. Let me get that sentence in again. Some keynotes to address regarding the president's speech. And I don't need my headphones on right now. Some keynotes to address regarding the president's speech. First, there are high tensions coming from the southern states regarding their property, i.e., their slaves, and President Lincoln's policy regarding the subject matter. He states that he has no problems to interfere, no plan. He states that he has no plans to interfere with the slave trade in those particular states. Anyone who has studied history on a general level understands that Lincoln is known as the, here he goes again. I'm just saying. What did they say about great minds? Whatever. Known as the great emancipator who freed the black slaves from involuntary servitude in 1865. Yet he states he does not want to get involved with the institution of slavery. Secondly, the proof of a mistranslation from the Arabic language to the English language when Lincoln states, it is found in nearly all the published speeches of him who now addresses you. If Lincoln is the one giving the speech, he would not address himself as him in the third person, but instead in the first person, such as it is found in nearly all the published speeches that I have addressed you. One could think, how can such a mistake happen within an undisputable, lawful congressional record? A more accurate question would be, why is President Lincoln speaking in Arabic in his inaugural speech in North America in 1861? Lincoln was double speaking and in Arabic. Surprisingly, Latin was the common language in the entire world. There are words in one language that do not exist in another language to describe it adequately. The congressional record continues to reveal that President Lincoln explains how the corporation became to be and quoted. I'm just thinking a bit here. Sometimes you gotta take in what you're reading. One thing about these devilish ones that have been established in positions of authority over us during the past 500 years is that they have an uncanny habit of, like the sister says, double speaking, forked tongues, telling little white lies that end up being big white lies. Unfortunately, their bigness tends to affect us, and especially the gullible amongst us, and not just the gullible amongst us, but they tend to instill a lot of this into us at a very young age. You know, when we go to kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, and so on. So understand that, you know, systemic slavery, systemic racism, I should say, is put upon us from a very early age. The effects, the programming of it. You understand? We take it for granted, the stuff we learn in school, until we start knowing better. But imagine in the meantime, every year we keep sending our children to public schools, only to be programmed all over again because you think little of the material that's being presented to them. I'm asking you, what on earth does knowing about Christopher Columbus have to do with you, black man, black woman? What does that story have to do with in any favorable way to you? I'm just revealing the hypocrisy of the claims that this is a land of equality for all people involved, when instead what you have is a one-way high street. Know about them enough to revere them, and not much about you, with the exception of the things that put you in a subordinate, inferior, belittled position. This is the education system. This is how we are programmed. So that as we grow up, not only do we fear the adversary, but we look highly upon the adversary. We even are taught to believe in the adversary. Go to church, you'll even worship the adversary. So no matter where you turn your face, that old saying that the Satan said, I will deceive them from in front of them, from behind them, to the right of them, to the left of them, this is what we encounter throughout our entire lives. And it only evolves from one form to another form. And you think that as you tie your Nikes and turn on the ball game, that somehow you freed yourself from this. The only freedom from this is a complete overhaul, a complete, unfettered, revolutionary overhaul. You understand? A complete detachment, the whole nine. Because as long as you are associated, tied to, or identified with the corporation, you're just a certificate in so many ways. You're just, well, you know, and when they want to cash in on that, then what? So think about this every time you see our lives being taken. Is that paying for something? Is the death of that person paying for something? Has somebody cashed in? You understand? When someone is born and whatnot, and our families are broken apart, is there a cost being paid off? Are the people that are sitting at the round table of the corporation benefiting in some way? I mean, think about the hostilities that happen when you begin to think about educating your children, when you begin to think about community education, homeschooling, and things like that. Look at the backlash you get because all these things disrupt the corporation. It would disrupt it even more when it starts to happen in mass. So what do? Well, they're always, planning one step ahead. So they infiltrate your homeschooling tactics. Say, okay, homeschooling, here's the online setup, but these are the curriculums that you must adhere to. And when you look in the curriculum, there it is all over again. Here we go again, talking about George Washington and Christopher Columbus and the settlers and the pioneers and the Quakers and so on. Nobody that looks anything like you, no tribe that sounds like you, nothing about you, nowhere, no how, except when it gets to the part, well, you were slaves brought aboard a ship crossing the Atlantic. Not even giving you the benefit of learning about those of you who are already here. No, we call them a different name. But when you look up those names, you find out that you've been called all those names throughout our history. You've been called a Negro. You've been called colored. If you look deep enough, you've even been called Indian. Go figure. We've been called all those names because we are all those names. But they play us when they say, they're getting too attached to that. So we need to relabel them, re-identify them, because we need to keep on breaking you apart. We need to keep on dividing you from amongst your own selves. And now look at us to this day. We're bickering over in the most pitiful way. I'm a Native American. So what? But you're black. I'm a Hebrew. So what? You're black. I'm Pan-African. So what? You're black. I'm not an African, but you're black. I'm not an American, but you're black. I'm not a Hebrew, but guess what? You're black. I'm just saying. And we allow these things to continually divide us. Thus, the powers that be are looking at their checkbooks saying money well spent. Money well spent. Let's continue. Descending from these general principles, we find the proposition that in legal contemplation, the union is perpetual, confirmed by the history of the union itself. The union is much older than the Constitution. It was formed, in fact, by the Articles of Association in 1774. It was matured and continued by the Declaration of Independence in 1776. It was further matured in the faith of all the then 13 states expressly plighted and engaged that it should be perpetual by the Articles of Confederation in 1778 and finally in 1787. One of the declared objects for ordaining and establishing the Constitution was to form a more perfect union. Abraham Lincoln's first inaugural address, 1861. We need to understand, family, how long they've been trying to control all of our institutions. The only institution they haven't been able to control is that in which our essence exists upon. That's why we keep on revising, keep on rising up, I should say, keep on revolutionizing. That's why many of us still have this flame, this revolutionary flame in our chest that refuses to die out because it's the one thing they cannot control. You understand? As long as that flame is there, it's the one thing they cannot control. We're looking for any opportunity to bust these chains up. As long as we live and breathe, every revolutionary mind, every revolutionary heart, this is there, and it never goes away. Even from day to day, as we're going to and fro, that desire to be truly free, that instinct, that nature, that inspiration, that intuition, all of that is constantly with the revolutionary-minded black man and black woman. Constantly. But they've spent 500 years studying us, family. Understand what that means. 500 plus years studying us. Studying and exploring ways, and even longer than that, they have been at trying to control our institutions. They knew we were spiritual. We were also religious. I know some of you, have a bone to pick with that term, but our ancestors were, the whole concept of being religious originates from us. Being religious is not a Caucasian invention. You understand? In fact, they really haven't invented anything. They've hijacked, they've whitewashed, they've skewed, misinterpreted, or offered a corrupt interpretation of. But all these institutions that we've ever had, they all come from us. You understand? And they've spent their time learning how to steal, control, become authorities of and over all these institutions. That's why, even when you, like I said, when you look and think about all the symbols you see in DC, the District of Columbia, look at all the symbols, and you'll see all kinds of icons and symbols that represent something that was at one time important to us. Symbols that have been made to redirect our spiritual focus to where it once was: Most High, oneness, unity, the way of the original, and instead redirecting it to them. You look at everything everything that is pushed in this land of the beast, from the holidays. What holidays do you have? And look at all the icons and relics that are promoted during those days. Do you see your image displayed? Do you see your image promoted? Do you see anything that's relevant to you in any way? In any way on those days? And if you don't, you got to ask yourself why. Why are these things constantly forced upon us and put upon us? Because it's these things that keep the shackles on when the metallic shackles are no longer there. These things keep us enslaved. Every year they keep us enslaved, and they cover. So you have to understand, 365 days in a year. That's 364.5 or 0.25 days in a year, and in each of these days of the year, there's landmarks that keep on refreshing our enslavement, so long as we continue to participate in it. We just passed one of them. Many of you were out there with your heads off your neck, participating in this foolery that has nothing to do with us but trickery, treachery, genocidal, maniac-based day, and we're participating in it like it's the joy of our life. None of these days, not from January 1st to December 31st, none of these days have anything to do with us. None of them. None of these so-called holidays have anything to do with us. They're not. They're either whitewashed versions of things we used to do, or they're what you want to call they're formed or remade or repackaged events that exalt them. All the symbols, all the sights, all the sounds, all these things affect our psyche. Just like the traffic light. Think about how we respond to a traffic light. We instinctively know that when the light is red, we stop. When it turns green, we go. When it's yellow, we slow down a little bit. We take heed or whatnot. Think about how long it takes to program a person to have that mindset. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm trying to get you to understand that this is the same methodology used to program us with everything else we go through in our life. Everything. So every time as soon as December 25th comes, you know exactly what the dumb, deaf, and blind are going to do without hesitation, right on time. Right on time. They're preparing for it by November. This takes years and years
500 years to do. And they're using it again, it's all based on formulas that we once depreciated. But when we're programmed to now see the enemy's likeness as the sovereigns, then that's how we take them when we're programmed. And to this day, many of us still are frightened by the devilry. Frightened by the devilry. Spooked and made to fall in love with the devilry. So on one hand, you're frightened. On the other hand, you're infatuated. And you can't let this stuff go for me. Even when there's brothers and sisters who know that this stuff is bogus, but they can't let it go. And we'll make all kinds of silly, lame excuses to continue perpetuating the madness, all the while knowing their shenanigans. According to President Lincoln, the United States Corporation found its existence from the Articles of Association in 1774. So what exactly are Articles of Association? The Articles is a document that specifies the regulations for a company's operation and defines its purpose. A company's article of incorporation detail what the organization can and cannot do, including appointing directors and handling financial records. Very similar to a select group of individuals who decide to start a corporation or an LLC. And its articles of incorporation or organization must be approved by the state secretary of state, because the corporation or LLC is seeking existence from the state in which it will transact business. In other words, in order for any of our business to exist, we're going through this chain of authority to receive what? Another certificate that says you have a right to exist. Think about that. Think about being born, and in order to acknowledge that you exist, to give you the right to live, you have to have a certificate. Understand what that is, a certificate. A certificate. It's a currency. It's like a stock. It's like a symbol of value. Think about your graduation certificate, your diploma. It's valuable, right? When you take it somewhere, you're showing them that you have a certain value. That when you are a part of their corporation, or union, they have to acknowledge your value. That means you're worth something. You're not a $20 bill. You're not a $5 bill. Look at this diploma I've got. I'm a $1,000 bill. That's what you're telling them. That's what you're telling them. And just being born into this world, you're telling them something as well. I'm of the black class or the African American class, as you check off what race you are on that certificate. You could have easily, and some people have done this, I'm not going to recommend it, you could have checked white. And your birth certificate would declare you as a white person on your birth certificate, regardless of what the hospital or the doctor says you are. I'm talking about your certificate. Understand, this is what people have done. Many Latinos have done this. Many Asians have done this. When they come, they establish a certificate, and they establish themselves as white people. You look at an Asian man, but his certificate identifies him as a white man. Why are they doing that? Because they want to put value on their certificate, meaning the symbol that represents their human value as a human resource. So as a white man, I have more value than you, black man. I'm worth more. See my birth certificate? It says I'm a white man. So I'm worth more than you. What is the certificate? Let me see his birth certificate. Show me your birth certificate and ID. Oh, you're a black, but you don't have that. Sorry, you don't have enough value. We can't accept you here. You're not enough. You don't have enough value. Even if you, oh, wait a minute, I got a diploma. I know, but it says you're a doctor there, but yeah, you're still not as valuable as a white man with that same diploma. Understand these things aren't just happening. They're not just random bursts of hate. They're systemic hatred. There's systemic racism, meaning it's intellectually established. There's thinkers behind this, family. These aren't random hillbillies going up and down the mountain on the backs of horses, waving their hats, saying, "Oh, get the nigger." It's not that type of show. It's there, but these are the what do you want to call the dust dwellers, the ground, the pawns. These aren't the movers of the pieces. These are the pawns that you're looking at when you want to identify racism. We're talking about the people who are establishing these corporations from the top. So understand what happens when you encounter these ones, why the brutality is happening. Orders are being followed, even if the individuals themselves who are implementing the orders may not even be directly aware of it. Orders are being followed. Understand, just like you're programmed, many of us are programmed to be submissive to the powers that be. You've got people who are programmed to manifest the law. Law and order for the benefit of the corporation. That's their job. That's what they're here to do. They're following orders. Even that means getting you out the way. If you start to do things that could hinder the progress of the corporation overall. So again, according to President Lincoln, the United States Corporation found its existence from the Articles of Association in 1774. So what exactly are Articles of Association? The Articles is a document that specifies the regulations for a company's operation and defines its purpose. A company's articles of incorporation detail what the organization can and cannot do, including appointing directors and handling financial records, very similar to a select group of individuals who decide to start a corporation or LLC, and its articles of incorporation or organization must be approved by the state Secretary of State because the corporation or LLC is seeking existence from the state in which it will transact business. The most obvious question is, if the individuals who seek to start a company must first obtain approval from the Secretary of State, then who approved the United States Corporation's articles? What authority permitted the United States Corporation to exist? After all, Abraham Lincoln did say that the Constitution did not come about until 1787. To answer this question, examining the Articles of Association 1774 itself should provide great insights. I want to put something here. Remember that the people who brought some of our ancestors over here, that the people who invaded this land, this particular area, were, well, you started off with the French. You started off with French and Spaniards. But the ones who ended up beating them out of the way were who? The British. So if you can speed up the clock a little bit till you have the Revolutionary War, what was the Revolutionary War about? Was it a victory, or was it an agreement? That's what you've got to ask yourself. You know, the Ottomans busting up in Constantinople, defeating them through invasion and siege. That was a victory. That means one country defeated another country. But here you have the British fighting the United States, or the colonies at the time. How did that end? Was it an actual successful war, or was it an agreement established, like a treaty? You understand? A kind of a treaty. Then you have to ask yourself, if you could see that an agreement was established, what kind of agreement was that? Why is the UK still an integral part or integral factor in the United States of America? What's so important about Sweden? What's so important about the Netherlands? What's so important about the European Union? Any of that makes them essential allies of the United States? But more importantly, there's something about this United Kingdom. You understand? Something about that United Kingdom that you should look into. Let me look at this comment here. So the people are all in one, the heist, and our people have been so divided that some amongst us fall for the BS and serve the fiat currency and not the Most High. Yeah, very powerful, very true. That's what I'm saying. This, when you really think about how deep this stuff is, and I'm not even a legalese-minded person. I mean, I've learned some things here and there along the way, but the things I'm saying to you are just like almost like layman observation. You understand? I'm just, this is what I'm seeing and identifying with based upon everything that I've observed along the way, and continue to see abundance of evidence of much of this. These are the things that are going on. I know many of us don't care, because when you're dumb, deaf, and blind, you don't see any of this anyway. None of this is relevant to the dumb, deaf, and blind. You don't see none of this. To you, it's just a walk in the park. It's just, oh, he's just doing his job. Well, you're right about that. He is doing his job. But what is that? What does that mean? You don't know. Many of us are living our lives like, it's almost like we're living our lives as if we ourselves see ourselves as expendable. Like there's no real value in your own being, your own existence. I'm not saying we put ourselves on a pedestal, but when you see sacred in you, in one another, in your own people, it changes the whole dynamic of how you live your life. Like I said earlier, brothers, we need to see each other as sacred, see that baby girl as sacred. That baby girl should not have lost her life should not have been found dead in the back of an alley. A 2-year-old. I'm just saying, when we put sacred, when we restore sacred amongst us, that changes the dynamic. You do stuff because you value your own. It's now divine status. It's divine that you exist. You are a manifestation of the Most High. So when I see you, I need to value your existence because it's the presence of the Most High that's before me. Shalom, right? Salam alaikum, right? I'm telling you, one of the manners in which the Most High manifests peace. When you and I are present between one another, there should be present with us peace. There should be a circle of peace right there where we stand. Where our feet touch the ground, it should be understood that sacred is there. And that your blood should not be spilt by my hand. My blood should not be spilt by your hand. And in fact, you should do whatever it takes to make sure it doesn't happen. I should be able to do whatever it takes to make sure it doesn't happen. That's when you see one another as sacred. As we once had done. Once had saw. As we once had seen one another. And I got to salute Brother Grandmaster Jay for the recommendation, or actually it wasn't even a recommendation. It was a direct order, quote unquote, direct order for the supporters and participants of the UBKN movement to do. Imagine that. Imagine this being one of the reads to be instructed to read. Like I said, that says a lot about the person who presents the recommendation or the instruction. It says a lot about their mentality. Because look at the conversation that's coming from this. Look at the conversation that's being produced just from reading this book. And this is something that I've observed from every time I've read, books that have been recommended in this way. I always think about the type of conversations, the type of thoughts that get inspired that ends up coming out as conversation. It's heavy, family. It's real heavy. And the more we dig in, the more we do our homework on these things, the more we start to fortify ourselves, the more we start to develop a defensive membrane around our people. You understand? And that membrane starts to become stronger and stronger and stronger. So strong that one day it can become impenetrable. And when that happens, we wouldn't have no need to be concerned about any adversary, be it beast or human. That from and after the first day of December, next, we continue, we will not import. I'm trying to I promise you, I didn't even read this part. But I'm just thinking about what I've been talking about. Man, I see what's coming. I already see where this is going. I've like literally skimmed through, I saw some images and things like that. But I see where it's going. I see. That from and after the first day of December next, we will not import into British America. Oh, man. You guys got to get this book and read it. We have to. It's a direct order, after all. Get the book and read it. Into British America from Great Britain or Ireland, any goods, wares, or merchandise whatsoever, or from any other place, any such goods, wares, or merchandise, as shall have been exported from Britain or Ireland. Nor will we, after that day, import any East India tea from any part of the world, nor any molasses, syrups, penniels, coffee, or pimento from the British plantations or from Dominica, nor wines from Madeira or the Western Islands, nor foreign indigo. Going to the commentary real quick. Pawns can only move forward unless it's the first move. But the pawn can't jump over other pieces that block the next square. And the pawn can't move backwards. Here's the thing that I'd like us to look at, though. When we think about the game of chess, it's not even the pieces that are the most powerful. It's the players at each end of the board. It's the players, family. It's the players that are moving the pieces to their own aims. Both the opponent and the player himself, their objective is victory. And the objective is for them to strategize using all the pieces at their disposal to their advantage. Some of those pieces being expendable, meaning they don't mind losing them. They put that piece there anyway, knowing that they're going to lose that piece because they saw something, a bigger agenda. I can lose this one, I can lose this one, and then when I get to this piece, checkmate. Yeah. That's what the 1% are doing. They're manipulating this board. And when people amongst us start to wake up, they restore the true mover in themselves, manifesting the Most High. And for such a person like that, people would see you as the people saw the Messiah. People would see you as the people saw Confucius and Lao Tzu and Mahavira. And you would be seen as outside of the corporation, for better or for worse. And in most cases, if you've been reading any type of books of these sorts, of the names of people I've mentioned, while they had been adored or they're talked about in adoring ways in our times, they were hated on by the powers that be, and still are hated on by the powers that be. Any people who started to become so full of the knowledge of self, the knowledge of being, the knowledge of what is, the knowledge of truth, the more they started to manifest what that means, the more they became an opponent of the powers that be. Even if they just had a grain of it, it was still enough to be offensive to the powers that be, because it's something that, seeds, trees grow from just little seeds, and one tree can become a forest. So it doesn't take much to be effective when you have oneness. Doesn't take much. Yes, indeed. Chess, not checkers. We will neither import nor purchase any slave imported after the 1st day of December next, after which time we will wholly discontinue the slave trade, and will neither be concerned in it ourselves, nor will we hire our vessels, nor sell our commodities or manufactures to those who are concerned in it. Article 2. The first article tells us that commerce took place under British America, and various merchandise would cease importation from Great Britain to East India. A more important fact is found in the second article, that no slave of any kind, meaning voluntary or involuntary servitude, would be allowed due to the slave trade being discontinued. Shalom, dear beloved sister. And by the way, be sure to share this live, like and subscribe if you would be so kind. How is it that slavery was allowed within the southern states, as Lincoln addressed, and then abolished in the North America in 1865, if slavery was never intended to occur as per the initial document that created the United States in 1774? Another fair question is, who exactly were the slaves involved in the slave trade during this time? Powerful questions, folks. These are questions, if I were you, I'd write these questions down and just stare at them for about a good 30 minutes. Maybe not 30 minutes, 30 seconds. But just really look at those questions. A lot of attention and condemnation is directed towards the African slave trade tragedy. And keep in mind, when we're looking at anything that these people put our attention to or cause us to focus on, we need to look at these with a microscope. And then we need to look around, because they have this habit of showing you only what the camera is able to pick up while ignoring things in the peripheral. When if you saw the things that were in the peripheral, they would tell you a fuller story. Continuing. The 16th and 19th century is when this took place. However, another equally despicable trading of humans was taking place around the same time in the Mediterranean proximity. The Barbary pirates enslaved approximately 1.25 million Europeans, and their lives were just as pitiful as the Africans. Interesting. They were referred to as the white slaves of the Barbary slave trade. I remember reading about this. The Asante Sana for the share. The Barbary pirates enslaved approximately 1.25 million Europeans, and their lives were just as pitiful as the Africans. They were referred to as the white slaves of the Barbary slave trade. Slavery is one of the oldest transactions, another term for economics and commerce and things like that deals with what? Contracts and agreements, certificates, etc. Slavery is one of the oldest transactions known to man, and the records of the slave trade date back to the Code of Hammurabi in Babylon in the 18th century are available. People from virtually every significant culture, civilization, and religious background have made slaves of their own and enslaved other peoples. However, I'm glad he's okay. I think we're going to get to something here because I'm looking at some of the country names being taught that are coming up. However, comparatively little attention is focused on the prolific slave trade carried out by the pirates of corsairs along the Barbary coast, as the Europeans called it in that period, in what is now the Empire of Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and Libya, beginning around 1600 AD. In the 16th and 14th centuries, Christian pirates were primarily from Catalonia and Sicily, which conquered all Admiralty seas, posing a constant threat to merchants. It was not until the Ottoman Empire's expansion in the 15th century that the Barbary corsairs started to become an irritable problem to Christian vessels. While the Barbary slave trade is depicted as Muslim corsairs capturing white Christian victims, the pirates were not concerned with the ethnicity or religion or religious orientation of those held in captivity. They were in for a cash grab, family. They were like, where do I sign? Right there? Okay, deal. I will get them for you. I'll be right back. That's how I mean, I'm telling you, the systemic racism that we suffer here is like an anomaly in history, in the history of humanity. No one has done it like this. This over here, what they're talking about here, was business, was sheer business. There was money in it. So while the Barbary slave trade is depicted as Muslim corsairs capturing white Christian victims, the pirates were not concerned with the ethnicity of religious orientation of those held in captivity. Slaves in Barbary could be of any color with multiple backgrounds: black, brown, or white, Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, Jewish, or Muslim. It was all about their class of commercial status, which dictated slavery or not. The pirates were not only Muslim. However, English privateers and Dutch captains of the Dutch Indian Trading Company also exploited the ever-changing loyalties of how neighboring friends could quickly become enemies, and enemies could become colleagues with the stroke of a pen. Contracts with the stroke of a pen, as per private contracts. I'm telling you, I didn't read this book like this in advance. All I did was I literally did this to get a glance before I didn't go in deep like this, and I'm already, man. Get the book, family. If you don't have the book already, you got to get this book. Amazon.com, they have it. I'm pretty sure it's on so many other platforms. If you can find a black-owned business that owns it, I would make that my first list of shopping places. I'm just saying. The captive slaves by the Barbary pirates faced a dark and horrible future. Many perished on the ships during the long voyage back to North America at this time, due to disease or lack of sustenance and hydration. Those who survived were taken to slave markets where they would stand for hours while buyers inspected them before selling at public or private auctions. I don't know if you ever seen like meat in the meat market where they have the meat on display and they just have it sitting right there out in the open. I can remember when I was in Djibouti and they'd have the fish and the meat and there's flies and stuff all over the place, but they would keep the fresh meat out there like that. They would try to fan it away, but they wanted you to see the meat as it was just taken off the animal a few hours ago. So understand the mentality, the corrupt though it be, business ethics that they were dealing with when it came to the way they wanted to try to present their products for sale. So again, starting that paragraph, the captive slaves by the Barbary pirates faced a dark and horrible future. Many perished on the ships during the long voyage back to North Africa at this time, due to disease or lack of sustenance and hydration. Those who survived were taken to slave markets where they would stand for hours while buyers inspected them before selling at public or private auctions. Once slaves were purchased, they were immediately forced to work in several ways. Men were assigned to hard manual labor using their strengths, such as working the quarries or heavy, strenuous construction, while women and children were used for housework or sexual servitude. At night, the slaves were placed into prisons called bignios that were uncomfortably hot and overcrowded. However, the worst fate for a Barbary slave could endure working the oars of galleys. Rowers were shackled together, seated, and never allowed to stand or leave their posts. No form of privacy was allowed in the oars, only sleeping, eating, defecation, and urination at the oar's seat. This is humans doing this, family. These are people doing this to managing overseers would crack the whip over the bare backs of any slaves considered not to be working hard enough. As previously stated, Dutch captains were working alongside the Barbary pirates, who were associated with the significant Atlantic slave trade company named the Dutch West Indian Company, whose native name is Geotrioder, something like that. It's a Dutch word, so have at it. It was a chartered West India Company founded on June 3rd, 1621 by William Uselix and Jesse de Foster and other Dutch merchants and foreign investors. One thing that I'm noticing that's common about many of these associated countries and companies is their locality, predominantly European. Even the Berbers at that time had some European stock going on. And why is that important to my reflection is that when you look at the locations of where the so-called Neanderthal used to inhabit, it was these same locations, including the areas where the Berbers lived. The Neanderthals lived in all those areas on that map. Anyway, that's important, relevant to me, because I will keep asking myself, how could a human being do this to another human? What would compel a person to be so savage, where you can't even, respectfully answer the call of nature? This is savagery. There's a mindset to this. There's a mentality behind this. And you got to think of the origin of such a mentality. Where does that come from? Maybe it does fall from the sky, so to speak. But I'm just saying. It is known that the Republic of the Seven United Netherlands granted this permission. Another company granting permission. That sounds familiar, like papal bulls and stuff like that. It was known that the Republic of the Seven United Netherlands granted this permission under the Empire of Morocco and gave jurisdiction over Dutch participation in the Atlantic slave trade, Brazil, the Caribbean, and North America. Look at this. Remember I talked about the programming Here's one of the fathers of modern day programming. Walt Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean's film franchise. You guys think you're just watching? Oh, this is fun. This is for children. That's what we like to say. Oh, it's no problem. Brother, you're being extreme. That's just for children. No, it's programming, and it starts when you're a child. Walt Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean film franchise says, looking back at Walt Disney's Pirate of the Caribbean franchise, British America always displayed their Dutch West or East India Company flag while at sail, fighting against the pirates. Unless you're a Portuguese, then you like to swap anybody's flag if it meets your advantage. But that's another thing there. All slaves within the company were classified as the Dutch West India Company employees. Look at that word there, employees, and took on the identity Indian. Like I told you before earlier, many of us that were not only were already here, but also brought here, many were classified, we were called Indians. I know in elementary school you heard that, oh, they mistakenly called us Indians. They didn't mistakenly call you Indians. They knew what they were doing. See how oh man, you see these little white lies? I mean, come on, man. We got some waking up to do, family. I'm just saying. 500 years of knocking us dead asleep, and then perpetual lying right beneath our nose and having us pitted against one another, while they continue to rape, rob, and just pulverize us with their shenanigans, day in and day out. And you think these conflicts are just random? All these beefs we have against one another, the grief that we experience. Man, all slaves within the company were classified as, not accidentally, somebody wasn't, oh, we think these are Indian. No, they knew exactly what they were. It was in their business, their interest to label us as such. For one, many countries, especially if they were pitted against one another for financial reasons and devilish reasons, they needed to distinguish themselves between what the French were doing, what the Spaniards were doing, what the West Indian Company was doing, and so on and so on. They had to make a distinction so they knew what was theirs. You understand? It could keep control of what was theirs, lest you Negroes go running off where you ain't got no business belonging. All slaves within the company were classified, I'm going to read it again and again, as the Dutch West India Company employees, and took on the identity Indians. I'm telling you, this brother Day, he's done some heavy homework, family. This is where the term Indian originates. The trading company could operate in West Africa and the Americas, which further included what is known today as the United States outlying possessions. Pause for a minute to observe the commentary. Finland just said climate change can be changed if the continent of Africa would engage African women to terminate life. Man. This is the stuff they do. And the insane part about it is many of us buy immediately right into it. I can't remember the total number, but I know it was in the thousands of you gullible fools who took that vaccination. I know everybody isn't a fool. Some of us were compelled. Some of us were compelled. Some of you were compelled. They're the exception to the rule. They're the exception to the rule. Some of you didn't have any choice because master compelled you in a way where you didn't have no other option. It's either that or you lose your livelihood. It's either that or you suffer some type of consequence that you couldn't afford to suffer. But many of you willy-nilly wallowed your way into those clinics because you believe that Master knows what's best. Master knows what's best. I'm just saying, this is the same madness. All these things, and you end up finding out where Ebola was started from, where COVID was started from, where West Nile was started from, where syphilis was started from, and all the different kinds of experimentations that, you know, revolved around these attempts to kill us off and control us. Because it's not just about killing you off. It's about controlling you, population controlling you. Population controlling you for what purpose? So that their product can be at its best. And what's at its best? When you are docile, submissive, easy to control. Yeah. It's sad that some of us were forced into doing that. And for them, they have my prayers to the Most High, because I think I believe that, you know, this is where the mercy part comes in. I'm not talking about people who willfully did these things, willfully, you know, took on the shenanigans of devilry, but people who were forced into it, who were compelled against their will. Because, you know, when people who suffer, or even people who die from this, they are a martyr. They are a martyr. They leave this life as a martyr, because this was something that happened to them outside of their control. So, man, yeah, even my mother, the womb that bore me into this world, I believe she's suffering the effects of the same virus and vaccine. And as the days progress, it's starting to show more and more of its effectiveness. Anyway, so prayers for her. So continuing. There were slaves of all skin tones coming to the Americas, not just from Africa. Contrary to popular belief, as told in public school textbooks. And by the way, for any Caucasian so-called white person that might be watching this, this isn't a what you want to call it, a ticket for you to justify and whatnot. Like they like to do. They like to use these type of talking points to justify our circumstances of the day. This isn't what this is talking. This isn't what this is trying to point at here. Because yet and still, the enslavement, the way that, see, here's what we're dealing with here is not simply enslavement. We're dealing with, repeat my words, systemic racism. Yes, like I said, there were slaves of all skin tones coming to the Americas. But what we black melanated people in the United States are suffering is systemic racism. Get it through your thick skulls if you claim to be a so-called white ally. And I'm going to challenge that. Like I said, stay tuned for lives where I challenge whether or not you are a racist. Stay tuned for that. Many of you are racist, even though you declare yourself not to be. But I want to get to the bottom of it. I want to get in. I want to get in. Man. There were slaves of all skin tones coming to the Americas, not just from Africa. Contrary to popular beliefs, as told in public school textbooks, to refer back to the original question, who played the Secretary of State's role authorizing the Articles of Association of 1774, permitting the British American Corporation, America Corporation, to transact agricultural and merchandise business on North America's lands. The Great Moor, the Sultan, in connection with His Majesty's King George, governed many dominions and permitted the Anglo-Saxon traders from Great Britain to begin their agricultural conquest of the east of North America, ancient Egypt, Mahometan nation, which developed into the 13th colonies, which led to the development of the Department of Agriculture in 1862. The Atlantic slave trade aligned with the Dutch West India Trading Company on the colony's territory founded its way into the southern states of America. Now, what exactly is a Moor? A Moor is currently known today as a black or African American with a complexion formerly known as swarthy, dark olive skin, or tawny, yellowish red golden skin. The term Moor is throughout the 1599 Geneva Bible, describing everyone to be swarthy and tawny complexion. The newer translated Bibles purposefully replaced the Moors with Phoenician, Ethiopians, Greeks, or Hebrews. Intermarrying took place between the Moors and the less melanated slaves referred to as quadroons, a person who is 1/4 Moor ancestry, and octoroons, a person who is 1/8 Moor ancestry, and hexadecaroons, which is a person who has 1/16 Moor ancestry. I remember something about this some years when I was younger, a teenager. Intermarrying led to mulattoes, another term they like to use in association with many of us here. A person mixed white and Moor ancestry, especially a person with one white or one Moor parent. There's some more things to be understood about that paragraph right there, I must say. And I'm not saying that to be necessarily critical, but to be to have a perspective. I have a perspective about that. Looking at the commentary, take a look at what the UN is getting ready to roll out. If my comments will bring anything other than its positive vibes, that's not my intent. Again, thanks for sharing. Yes, indeed. We can govern ourselves. That is very true. And it's been something that had been done amongst us prior towards this experience. It can be done again, but we need to be empowered. And the only way we can be empowered is when we see one another as sacred. See, they're talking about a community of people right here, the Moors. Those Moors of those days, they were sacred to one another. You understand? They saw each other as sacred. That's why they were able to move as one body. So they sacred, family, sacred. Oh man. Let me see something here. I want to get to that picture here in a minute, because that was the part that I actually did get to skim over a little bit. But we're coming up here. The Sultan, also referred to as the Imperial Majesty, permitted the Articles of Association of 1774 for the British American Corporation. You ever wonder why some of these different monarchies and established powers that be are still able to exist like they are today? How they possess, how, again, when the United States leadership refers to any of these entities, is always revering their status. And I know it's easy for us to see that as simply a formal gesture of respect, but you need to look into that further when you when you're talking about the fact that I believe it was Obama and there may have been another president who would bow to the Sultan, who would bow to the King of Saudi Arabia, bow to the Pope, bow or respond a certain way to the monarchy of Britain. Why do you think these things are happening? And you don't ever see any of them. You've never seen the King of Saudi Arabia bow to any president. A president, a member of a corporation, the head of a corporation, president. You've never seen any person bow of any of these systems of authority to a president of the United States of America. And I think only one president didn't do that. And this is the one that everybody's talking about right now. I think he's the only president who didn't bow to anybody, who patted the monarchy on the back of Britain. I think he patted did something that was contrary to the custom. So it's no wonder this guy is being made like the example, because he's the only one that's literally went against the grain of every etiquette that every other president went by. I'm just saying, something to take note of. Why didn't they bow back? Not one monarchy, whether it be a Arab monarchy, British monarchy, no monarchy has ever bowed to the United States. Man, I even saw one scene where even the Pope bowed down to an African authority. I think that he may have even been an African president, and he was at least bowed down to by the Pope. Kissed his foot in there, or tried to kiss his foot or something and everything. I'm just saying, how come not one single president of the United States? What's the deal? The Sultan, also referred to as the Imperial Majesty, permitted the Articles of Association of 1774 for the British American Corporation. Whose corporation? The British Americans Corporation. That very document stated that no slavery of any kind would take place within North America. The Anglo-Saxons of Great Britain were under slavery themselves, controlled by the British Moors, British Moors, including the European Slavics, slaves, and others were being mistreated and brought to North America. This was like the dump site. This was like the dump site of just whatever. All while under the reign of King George III, a Moor. And again, this term Moor is being used like an umbrella word, like an encompassing word. That has to be dealt with separately. It's not necessarily problematic, but it can, I think in some ways it can be somewhat misleading when it comes to how it's being used. But here, I think it's appropriate for the context here. The European Slavics, the Africans, the Octoroons, etc., and other highly melanated people were branded. What is that? I mentioned this earlier, folks. Negro, colored, Indian, black. These. Think of these as trademark words. Since we're dealing with this in a business mindset, think of these as trademark words, ways to trade your products. Negro product, colored product, Indian product, and black product, depending on who the owners of them are. Not depending on who you are, but depending on where your owners come from. Remained as slaves except for the Anglo-Saxon peoples. In other words, the Anglo-Saxon people gained some status as humans again, even though they were pieces of crap, as we see later on in the timeline of history to this day. The others were considered a rebel group and promoted insurrection against the British Moors. King George III was a Moor who possessed plenipotentiary action, ruled, you got to look that word up, folks, ruled Britain as a dominion of Morocco. I want to look it up. Stuff like this won't leave me alone when I have questions about stuff. Let me see if I can I that over here. All right, let's type it in. Here we go. Plenipotentiary, invested with full power, of or relating to a person invested with full power to transact any business. In other words, you could say he was like a sole proprietor, full power, right? Full power to make any transaction he so chooses. Okay, let me see this again. King George was a Moor who possessed plenipotentiary action, ruled Britain as a dominion of Morocco, Mohammedan nation, under the Sultan, and authorized the Declaration of Independence in 1776, freeing the Anglo-Saxons from the British Moors to inhabit the available territories of incorporated British America with the colonies. That's an interesting thing. You got to read that again, because a lot just happened right there in that section right there. One is identifying the reach of an established power's authority, the Moroccan authority. It's also identifying the way in which the British Empire was ruled or able to manifest its authority or its power. For a certified photograph of His Most Sacred Majesty King George III, write the following mailing address: Science Museum of London, Exhibition Road, London, Southwest 72 DD, United Kingdom, and request an authenticated copy as seen on the following pages. And I did some stuff myself. Let me see if I can share the screen with you just for a second. I started with this one. Let's see here. I got to refresh the page because it's. Give me a second. Let me refresh this page. Refresh this one right here. Okay, so I was looking up stuff, being nosy. That's why the Most High is exposing the corporation of the District of Columbia. The veil is being lifted. Okay, let's see here. I gotta go back to present. Share the screen. So I came upon this one first. Oh, hold on, because my book just changed pages against what I was trying to do. There we go. Okay. So I came across this image right here because I'm a skeptical person when it comes, and the reason why I'm saying that is because I can imagine. I'm like, for this, I'm aware of this picture. I remember this picture, but I remember years ago when I would be skeptical about stuff like this, coming across stuff like this, and so I wanted to look up other stuff for the sake of other people who might still be in that zone about certain things with skepticism. because they're like, oh, you know, how do you know? Or where did you get that from? Or whatever. Like some of you, it may be news to you, you know, of some of the imagery, the messianic imagery that Russia possesses. That's not new to me. I've seen those images many, many years ago in my teenage years. But it just so happened because there's a lot of politics and political war going on and physical war going on that these things have surfaced, the imageries have surfaced again. But yeah, so what you see right there is one of the such imageries that I've come across depicting this King George III. Then I came across this small one. Let me see if I can make it bigger. This one is you see it's sourced from Pinterest, which is like a photograph-based website. The Moors were the black kings and queens who ruled Europe for over 700 years. The African history evidence shows that the Moors ruled for nearly 700 years in Europe, mostly Spain and Portugal. They were identified. And that's something important to know, family, when you think about how British, Spanish, French life looked many years ago. You understand how it looked, its appearance, like how the social scene would look. It didn't look like it appears to look today. But then again, that's that camera trick I was telling you about, where you show one part of the scene and ignore the rest to try to bolster your agenda. And that's why, you know, to this day, many of you don't know about black Brazilians. You don't know about black Chinese and black Hindus and black Colombians. You don't know about them because they don't like to put the camera in the direction where these people live. And you'd be surprised that they're very numerous in population. They're not speckled here and speckled there, even though they are under attack and being killed. There are genocidal actions that have been happening to some communities. But when you want to say black is everywhere, that is so true. It's so true, family. And the more we can connect with that truth, the better off we'll be. But this is the image of King George they would rather you believe in. They want you to believe in this King George, who they describe as having mental issues. He was insane. He was all these, you know, he was just out of his mind as he got older. He was just a maniac of a thinker, right? He was a mental case. He was a mental case. So imagine that. They will show you this image of King George because they don't want you to see the other image, but then at the same time describe him as a complete nutcase. This is the only time they've done stuff like this. They've done this again and again when it comes to our likenesses, our representations. Either they will whitewash us, or somehow we become insane sorcerers and witchcraft users and things like that. Everything other than a child of God and an honorable man or woman. So then, I want to show this too, because I want to give you an idea. Well, this map is too small. If you get a chance, look at the map. And when you look at where Britain, Spain, and France is, you see the kind of, you've got Britain, France, Spain, like that, right? And if you can understand that Moorish occupation, it covered all of Spain, covered some of France as far as its physical borders are concerned, but its influence was pretty much all across Western Europe. Eastern Europe, the eastern part of Europe was pretty much Ottoman territory. You understand? In some of the time frame, which I think was like 700 to like 1400. Let me go back. I had something there. Yeah. Here is citing it between 711 and 1492. but give or take. Another thing is, don't think that when you got to 1492 that the Moorish Empire was just dead. Empires, even when they collapse, there's still bits of influence that kind of fizzle on for a long, long time. You understand? Where there's still behaviors that are attributable and actions and cultural elements that are still attributed to the former rulers. I mean, I'm in a state called Ohio. That's a native word. It's not a European word. It's a native word. Ohio. Mississippi, another native word. So you see, like former, communities, the effects are still ongoing and have been somehow, absorbed by the new powers that be. Much appreciated, dear sister. Asante Sana. So let's get back into the book. The Sultan, also referred to as the Imperial Majesty. Let's see, didn't I? Yeah, I did. So we already did that. Although the Declaration of Independence of 1776 freed the slaves. A second there. Okay, I got to keep an eye on the time because I want to limit this to a certain time frame, which is, let me look, give me a second here. It's 20. Yeah, we're going to have to, we'll deal with this paragraph right here until it gets to that section right there for today. Yeah. Yep, very true. Cahokia, Illinois, someone's pointing out. In fact, you'd be surprised. We're bombarded with names of the natives that once lived here. Even some of the words that if you look up, there's some words that we use in our language that were native words that they use to describe their environment. I see an ancestral word coming up for me. Or so I've been told. At least there's like a 5% measure of DNA. Although the Declaration of Independence of 1776 freed the slaves, slavery was still oppressive throughout the 13 colonial territories. It was repackaged. Listen to that, repackaged, just like a business community, just like a company would do. Repackaged and sold in a new form known as debtor camps of debtor prisons. Before diving into the debtor camp, Abraham Lincoln stated it was the Articles of Confederation of 1778 to follow the Declaration of Independence. The former British American Corporation would later be known as the United States of America in Congress assembled. The Articles of Confederation kindly addresses all in the onset. To all to whom those present shall come, we, the undersigned delegates of the states affixed to our names, send greetings, whereas the delegates of the United States of America in Congress assembled did on November 15th, in the year of our Lord, 1777, and in the second year of the independence of America, agreed to certain articles of confederation and perpetual union between the states of New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Bay, Rhode Island, and Providence, Plantations, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. In 1787, the United States of America's Constitution was finalized to make a perfect union between all the states during a constitutional convention. It was all a republic in an attempt to bring together the Powhatan Confederacy and the Iroquois Confederacy in New York on December 1st, 1789. George Washington of the Washito tribe wrote a letter to his Masonic brother, Emperor Sidi Mohammed. I've read about this before. this event, this particular part. The letter is fascinating due to the unknown truth that the two confederacies, Powhatan and Iroquois, were at war with each other. Yes, they were at war with each other regarding matters of the right to leave the property in trust to their heirs, who were mulattoes from intermarrying with Indian women of the Dutch slave trade. It was against the Mohammedan law to turn over the property from a creditor or one who held title of nobility over to one who had a debtor status, which was not of full-blood descent. Title of nobility was the real issue that motivated the Civil War between the confederacies and the apprehension within the southern states that Lincoln was referring to in his inaugural speech of 1861. Sante Sana. Yeah, that's the one I was talking about when I've heard some genetic associations. Heard about some of these tribes. Wow, good place to pause for the time being. Like I said, this is I'm going to do like I'm doing here, but next time we meet, we'll be going into chapter 2. So this means that it is upon us individually to read the rest of this chapter. And hopefully, us going about it this way gives us a jump start, an inspiration to read. Yeah, these are no joke readings there, family. It just reminds us how so much has happened and is still happening to this very day. Things that many of us take so lightly, like it's nothing. And it's sad because our lives do have value. Our lives do have value. We're not insignificant. We're not designed to be expendable. You understand? Oh, I'm trying to. There we go. That's what I wanted to do. We're not designed to be expendable. We're designed to be a divine asset to existence, to be a an instrument of purpose. You understand? An instrument of purpose. That's why our features are so intricately, delicately designed. I mean, from every aspect of us, every feature you see in your body, you're not melanated for no reason. You're not melanated just to be someone who happens to be brown looking or dark brown looking walking around the street. That's how some of us think. Like this, the only purpose that we're brown is just because of a stroke of the paintbrush. God likes you to be brown. He likes all. That's not why you are melanated. A plant isn't green just so it looks pretty. It's green because this is how the photosynthesis is received in it. You understand? It takes the photosynthesis and it makes this as energy. As energy. These leaves are energy for the plant. And I'm talking about conductive energy. Nothing is just for no reason. Nothing is just for some aimless, pointless reason. You've got to have an appreciation for this stuff. Just like you would value gold and your jewels and your diamonds and your bling. This is the most expensive bling you could ever have. You're draped in bling. This melanin is nothing but bling. I'm just saying, family. So in the fight of the revolutionary, it includes the fight of not only restoring our freedom as living beings, as humans, but also restoring a sense of sacred that we once had as a people. I mean, think about it. Think about our ancestors for a minute. It's like every move they made had something to do with the cosmos, had something to do with etheric concepts, has something to do with energy, electricity, consciousness. You can't pass a Kemetic teaching or writing that is not connected to the heavens. This is us. And then when you come over here, when you look at the areas that the Aztecs invaded, which were our ancestral lands as well, when you look at some of these places that these newer age people invaded and occupied, you see the same thing again. I had a whole book of how these monuments, these ancient Mayan monuments, were configured to coincide with the positions of the moon. And then when you understand how the moon redirects the solar energy that you can absorb, and it's absorbed differently when it comes from the moon, it's a whole nother level. But that's when everything, every footstep we took was sacred. We would have conversations with trees because we had respect for the sacred soul that exists in all of us. Now we'll drive down the street and hit a raccoon and think nothing of it. Run over an opossum, a squirrel, and think nothing of it. This is our mindset now. Where the hell did we get this mindset from? This is not godly. We're manifestations of the Most High on the planet Earth, but yet we've taken on the character of these devils. Look at us, man. You're confused. You don't know if you're a man or a woman. And yet you're someone's father. You're someone's mother who's looking up to you like, what the heck is my mom? My mom is telling me to say yes, sir. My baba's saying to me to tell him yes, ma'am. What the heck is going on? It's heavy, family. When you think about the damage, the level of damage that has been done to our domes. That's why I'm using the term light domes. I'm trying to keep the stuff on in this dome that I've got on this neck. I'm trying to keep it fully luminous so that wherever I go, it's just like this image behind me, just booming with radiance. Dear family, I appreciate all those who came in to view this live. Inshallah, we'll be able to continue this Saturday. And I'm trying to organize this because, like I said, I do want to challenge you, the so-called white allies. And I say so-called because I stand on the principle of what our late brother Malcolm X once said when the so-called allies came and asked what they could do to help us. He turned to them and said, nothing. That's what you can do for us. Nothing. And it would bring us peace if you did for us nothing. What can you do to make our lives better? Nothing. Because everything you do to us is damaging. Even when you're at your best, somehow, some way, there's devilry finding its way in there that ends up damaging our lives. Because you won't accept the truth about us. You won't accept what it is that we manifest. You want to constantly put on par your suffering with the damage that has been done to our people for 500 years, you want to put your few puny years of life living in this day and age, in this time, not your ancestors, but you now. You want to equate your failure to pay your taxes, or your failure to get income from work, or your failure to hold what you got going on together. You want to put that on us and compare that to 500 years of psychological damage. 500 years of psychologically damaging the melanated people so that we don't even know how to use the melanin that we got. Can you imagine? It's like being a fully charged battery and not knowing how to manifest your potentials. And now we're all over the place. If you look at brothers and sisters that are in the know, that are in the what I like to call the age of black restoration of enlightenment, because that's what you see going all over YouTube and IG. We got all kinds of wise guy stuff to talk about. All kinds of wise guy stuff to talk about. And I'm not saying it isn't wise, but it's just interesting that that when you go through the YouTube channel, there's so many conversations about so many different things, from voodoo, from ancient Asian arts, ancient Kemetic arts, and astrologies, and this and that. We got it all on there. But for some reason, our division is causing us to suffer greatly. And our lack of knowledge of self, our lack of valuing self, you understand, seeing one another as sacred, is really tearing us apart. This is the only, they are so far in our minds that they've convinced whole populations of us to believe ourselves to be other than what we are, whether it be in the form of our sexual orientation, whether it be in the form of our identities. They're so deep into our psyche. Can't you see how deep into our domes they are? Man. When you got whole black neighborhoods with these politician signs in their yard, whole neighborhoods every year, houses adorned with the devilry of the imitation Christmas, adorned with this stuff, but nothing that smacks of relics of their ancestry. Nothing that looks like you and me anymore. Your whole street should be laced with manifestations that you are present. When they walk through our neighborhoods, they should feel the presence of the Most High as soon as they walk into the entrance. They should be looking everywhere with all kinds of reminders that the manifestations of God is here. Not this depressed condition that we find ourselves in. Broke down. Look, man, even if we're in a state of poverty, our wealth isn't there. Our wealth is in who we are. We should be able to have restore our wisdom, restore our consciousness enough to turn our whole neighborhoods into gold all over again. Yeah, because they got this I'm trying to think of what to call it. This mindset that they've just got to be involved with us. They got to have something to do with us. It's not enough to say, leave us alone. Because then like I said, when I do these lives, this is the stuff I want. This is the stuff I'm trying to get at. Exposing that even the most meek of you are still racist. Because you still will need to find, you need some kind of answer. You can't just leave us alone. And if not that, you refuse to take accountability. This is the other thing. Okay, leave us alone, meaning let us be ourselves and manifest ourselves. Yeah, superiority complex. Let us manifest who we are without your interpretation of who we are. Not who we are according to what you think we are, but who we are according to who we are. They won't let that be. Because even if we did that, they will say, well, what does this mean? What do you mean by that? None of your business. We're asking you, if you want to do anything, fix what you broke. That wasn't me, that was my ancestor. It's your responsibility. You've inherited this responsibility. Just like you can inherit someone's debt. Someone die in your family, that bill goes on to any member of the family they can find. Next thing you know, you get the bill, the creditors calling you. Yeah, you owe this amount. Well, I don't owe this money because you're this so and so who's related to you died. What's that got to do with me? Because you're related to them. So not only do they have superiority complex, they have a denial complex. These are the things that you're going to find out when we get into questioning these people who claim to be allies. These are the things you're going to find. Only a very select is able to pass through this narrow bridge and come out the other side unscathed. But even them, if you really comb through it, it's still there. It's still there. Because systemic racism goes in so deep. It's not just a doctrine. It's not just a belief or an ideology. It's a way of life. It's even an ethnicity. It's just who you are. It's your nature. It's how you're designed. Your inclination is left brain. You understand? Your inclination is left brain, linear, rationale. You have to interpret things that you can see. You have to interpret life or study life by learning from the dead. That's how you learn. You learn from dead things. All your experiments, all your studies is because you have to kill something first and then run an experiment on it. And then see what does that do now that it's dead? Or you do something that's fatalic just so you can understand. That's what you did to our ancestors. You made us as lab rats because you couldn't understand how healing works. So someone has to suffer because you failed to understand. Someone has to suffer. Our ancestors didn't need to dissect to know. They could observe and understand from the wholeness of things. There's a big difference, family. There's a big difference. So I want to explore this road and get it, because I mean it is what it is. I scroll up and I see some of these people who are always defending us and always talking about well, you guys are racist and against black people, and you hear and it'd be a white person saying this, and you may be well-meaning. But there's always a little tidbit somewhere here and there that ends up being missing from your dialogue, because that would be accepting who we are. Some of you are willing to say, oh, don't hate us because we're black. It's not enough. It's not enough to just not hate us because we're black. It's not enough to just be nice to us because we're a different color. It's not enough. It's not enough. It's not even enough to know that some of the historical figures that you revere were us. And you can acknowledge it now. Not enough. Not enough. It doesn't leave too much room for you. It doesn't leave too much wiggle room for you to wiggle your way out of racism, being a racist. I would challenge that the majority of you are racist. Even if just like they say, if you have a mustard seed of faith, some of you have a mustard seed of racism. Some of you have a mustard seed of racism. Like I said before, I'm going to say it again. It's impossible for the melanated man or woman to be racist because the default original manifestation is who we are. This is how it all began. You became an anomaly, and you became that anomaly due to unusual circumstances. So because you now manifest this form in which you find yourself, pale, without melanin, with little to no melanin, it doesn't change the fact that you're an anomaly. It doesn't change the fact that this is not something that was initially natural to the earth-based environment. You don't have to take my word for it, like the brother says on Reading Rainbow. Just step outside on a bright, shiny, sunny day. This isn't just a coincidence. Just like there's so much information just in a single cell of our body. Do you think this is just a oops situation that you fry under the sun? I'm just asking questions, family, because I want to get to what racism really is. I want to get at to what race. Me talking about your anatomy is not racism. Me talking about the origins of where each of us come from is not racism. But you despising your existence so much and then envying the divine existence that we have, the natural melanated form that we manifest, envying that so much that you believe that we're taking up to is just not enough for the both of us here, right? So we got to go. Because you're trying so hard to find a way to survive as you are. From your artificial intelligence, from all your artificial instruments and tools. And the only way you can get this out is you have to be in power. Because no one's going to willfully allow you to subject them to your tyranny. No one's going to willfully allow you to use them as guinea pigs. No one's going to willfully allow you to make them slaves. And to do with them as you so choose. No one is going to willfully allow that. So you have to be in a position of power to get off what you're trying to do. There's no other way. Because you know, the minute you lose that power, you lose the right to exist. Not because we did anything to you, but you no longer have the resources which you have brought about to maintain your existence. You no longer have those resources. When you no longer have these artificial resources because they require resources. Your resources that you use to sustain yourself requires resources. Those resources become exhausted. They become exhausted. That's why you're trying to find resources elsewhere. Let's look at Mars. Because you're trying to find some way desperately to hold on to this pitiful existence that you choose to hold on to, instead of, as one would put it, submitting to the will of the Most High and letting it be. If you were not, see, these are the people who we might be able to qualify as not being racist. The people who will just let it be. If you fry, you fry. If you die from frying, that it is what it is. Move on, next generation. Sounds harsh to a sensitive ear who's been used to being Karens and Kens all their life. Sounds harsh. But let nature take its course, like you like to boldly pronounce when you want to manipulate us here and abroad, like you did with the so-called vaccine. Let nature take its course. Let nature take its course with you. Leave us be. What can you do for us? Nothing. Go away. Let nature take its course. See what nature does with you. We could go about our way. You can go back to fishing and whatever you want to do, leave us be, give us our reparations on your way, out the door. Give us our reparations so we can pick up where we left off, if you don't mind. If you please or if you don't please. Give us our reparations and go about your way. And let nature, we would say, let the Most High, will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Some of you might say, let nature take its course. And let's see what happens. And that, to me, that would be the peaceful way. And those of you amongst you who have that mindset to let nature take its course, let the natural way flow, you might be entitled to being called not racist if we're going to use that, or if we can find that applicable to any of you at all. But like I said, it's a very, 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 very narrow bridge to cross to come out on the other side and be seen as not racist. It's a very hard path. Like I said, most of you are. The first thing I can look at, even as an individual, is your immediate circle. If you are trying to restore, if you are trying to be anything other than that, it will show in your immediate circle. It will show at your immediate circle. And your reaction, your response to the majority. The saying, birds of a feather flock together, is very true. Just imagine, for example, you get off a Greyhound bus in Ohio. And as soon as you get off, you see a huge crowd of white people and a huge crowd of black people. Dear white, not racist people, where are you going? I'd like to know the truth. Where are you going? You're getting off the bus. You got your suitcase. Where are you going? Over here's nothing but white people waiting for the next bus or whatever they're doing, but just crowds and crowds of white folks. Over here's crowds and crowds of black folks. Where are you going? Where are you going? Tell the truth. I'm just saying, respond to your instinct. Because that's what you're going to do. And even, see, here's the thing. Either you would be honest with yourself or you would be a hypocrite. And a hypocrite is a person who conceals what's really in their heart. Or someone who does things for show. Because the minute you decide, well, I'm going to go where there's nothing but black folks over here. I'm going to go there anyway. Why? Why? For what? To prove what? To whom? Like I said, the majority of you are racist. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? The right thing to do would be to follow the natural order. Birds of a feather flock together. There's nothing wrong. Nobody over here is going to be mad that you get off the bus, pick up your suitcase, and join the rest of the folks that are just like you. Nobody will get upset. Like, oh, he just did what everyone else did. He went with his own, just like we did. No sleep lost, right? But the moment you hesitate, the moment you have to try to figure out what to do, hypocrisy. And that's so lame. That's so lame. So at the end of the day, I can only ask you, as we get closer to the point where I want to do those lives, I ask you to do me a small favor and snap out of it. Quit lying to yourself. Quit lying to us. Quit being a liar. You don't need to keep taking our stories and trying to make them your own and get mad when we point that out and try to say, well, see, this is something applicable for everyone. Nobody asked you that. It's my story. Who gave you permission to take my story as if it was your own? just because you think it relates to you or you can relate to that story. It's not your story. It's not your book. And no one ever said it was. None of it is yours. But you've hijacked so many things from us and then get mad. And get mad when we have the nerve to tell you that's our story that you got right there, even though you've twisted and skewed meanings and translations of it. These are our tales. These are our stories of old. Please give them back. It's good that some of you want to call yourself being righteous, but the thing is about that righteousness, many of you were singing Jesus Loved Me songs while we were slaves. While we were enslaved, you were still singing Jesus Loves Me. This I know. You were still singing that in your churches. All the while. So you can save that. Save them little white lies. Just admit that you're racist. Just admit that you prefer the existence of your own over anyone else's. And let the natural way take its course. Get your chains up off of our children. Get your chains up off of their minds, off of our minds. If this confused way between the male understanding his manliness or his maleness and the female understanding her femaleness, if that's your way to confuse that, take your culture and your ways and your practices amongst yourself. Stop perpetuating them amongst our people. It's not our way. It's not our ancestral way. It's just not. It's not. Just admit that you're a racist. I mean, that's honesty. What do they say? Honesty, isn't that godliness? That's righteousness, right? Honesty. I'm telling you, if I was to have respect, I have more respect from someone who I know where they stand regarding me versus people who fake the funk on a nasty dunk versus the people who pretend. Just saying, family. Anyway, it is what it is. 3:30, 3 hours and 34 minutes have gone by. And now, this is where most shows will start singing their songs. Goodbye, see you tomorrow, all that stuff. I think perpetual evil has always undermined the advancements of the true liberation of our ancestors. We recognize the pattern of your ancestors continue to thwart our forward. I think I understand what you're saying there. It seems perpetual, but it has a weakness. It has a weakness. And the weakness is us seeing. That's the weakness. It's us seeing. Because when you see, it's like when you see a hole in the ground. What's your likelihood of stepping into the hole that you can clearly, there's clearly a hole right here. What's the likelihood of you stepping into a hole willingly, knowingly, falling to your death? So it's similar to this issue. The more of us that start to see, it gets harder and harder and more in conflict to their interests. So they could pluck off one or two when the masses are showing signs that they don't see. But when the masses begin to see, it's a different thing. And that's, if you pay attention, even in this younger generation, aside from all the other madness that they're drowning in, you see that there's a nice population that are increasingly seeing. They're being led to all kinds of different philosophies and ideas associated with, that they believe to be associated with our ancestors. But that's different from what I can remember when I was younger, when people were still singing Santa Claus is coming to town. Something different's going on. Seeing is happening. Is it happening fast enough? Time will tell, as they say. But when that happens, that's the game changer. That's the game changer. Because then you begin to see you in you. You begin to see me in you. We begin to recognize one another because we can see. Please do like, share, and subscribe. I also encourage you that if you are concerned with supporting this endeavor that I am upon, this necessary endeavor, please do refer to my GoFundMe account. If you want to support the Soul Journey of Life platform, you see the Cash App right there, and also you can support directly on the platform by clicking the Support the Cause tab on the left panel of the website. I also encourage you to join the platform, and I will remind all you Black fathers, brothers, we need to come together. You saw that there's a group. I would like to be able to invite as many of us to be able to come together and support one another as fellow fathers, because our sisters, they need us to be strong fathers in the household, in the family structure. We've got to return. We've got to return. Think about a Hajj or a pilgrimage, is that eventually you got to return. You got to return home. You experience all the storms and thunders through your travelings upon your pilgrimage. But once you reach your destination, you got to return. So we need to discuss that. We need to have a discussion of what tools, what moves upon this board to be made that will help us become stronger fathers, protect our fatherhood, and so on. The group is in Soul Journey of Life. I can show you the page once more for your benefit. Right here. New group in Soul Journey of Life. All you have to do is click this little, see this little accept invitation or request to be invited, I should say, and join the group so we can make something happen useful for us on a platform that's designed and meant for us and created by us. Bottom line, family. And I guess I'll share this with you again. Not that way, but this way. And that's the GoFundMe page, the return. I appreciate your support, those who have been supporting and those who intend to support. Asante Sana. And of course, you see the Cash App at the bottom of the screen. With that said, I believe that gives us the opportunity to go out. But I want to go out with what iTunes says is my #1 song on the Just Passing Through album. I was like, what is the #1? All I did was type in the top Questman songs, and that's what came up. Let me see. It was All the Way Black. It said All the Way Black, and no, wait a minute, that's Apple. iTunes said that. Spotify said All the Way Black. So I will play both of those songs then. Let's see here. So let's see. All the Way Black. Let's go there. Let me just set this up real back to back. And Just Us, that's the other one. So I said Spotify said Just Us, and iTunes said All the Way Black. I thought that was kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's see here. Let me get rid of this commercial. How's the family doing? How are the viewers doing? Pray that you're having a blessed evening or day, depending on where you are. All right. So we're going to go out in style. We're going to go out like this, family. And I appreciate everyone for showing up, participating. Listen to that by John Connor, Black. Okay, I'll have to check that out. This is your brother, Abdul Wadud, a.k.a. Questman, live soul journey of life, conscious Black social media. Assalamu alaikum, shalom, hotep, peace and blessings be with you. Have a blessed rest of your evening.
How many men must die before open wide the eye as I roll my side when I hear their mother cry? Enough is enough, it's just us in this battle for just us, it's just us. Keep your fist up in the sky if you know we about to rise. In the God we trust, it be word to the wise, it's just us. In this battle for just us, it's just us. What's the code? The black code, it's cold. My soul can't be sold. How can it be? The key, the way. It's gonna be a long day. My soul, what can I say? It's we, not me. I see the mystery unfold as another black body suffers from police brutality. Don't get mad at me. QUEST, man. I raise my fist in the best way only a black man can. Draw a line in the sand, melanated, so you hate it. There's enough for me to those that water long enough get stagnated. So I flow with gold, and the vacuum for me is strong angels. Catch my angle, the light dome, my froze to halo, a divine behest. Where the soldiers at? Ready to step into the test. The stress, don't sweat it. The pain, less momentum to rise above the rest. Inspired yet, tired of BS. I got an idea, rise up, mela. Keep the admonition, all the holy messengers addressed. There's no room for the coward. Wise up, stand up. The day you see us in love and unified, recognize the signs of the hour. Rain and shine, the reason for the ride. We are the generation who refuse to accept anything less than black power. How many men must die before open wide the eye as I roll my side when I hear the mother cry? Enough is enough, it's just us in this battle for just us, it's just us. Keep your fist up in the sky if you know we about to rise. In the God we trust, if you word to the wise, it's just us. In this battle for just us, it's just us. Take two of these and feel it working instantly. Flows powerful enough to obliterate those who stand against me immensely. I benefit by seeds to grow into a greater image than I be. It's highly likely to be so long as they understand the essence of the 1, 2, 3s and ABCs of the warrior of our story. See the sun rise up in the morning. When I come, the sky begins storming. It's alarming. In fact, when the world was black, we were supreme in understanding. We gon' need that back. Solid like a rock your body. Lolly-dotty. I look and I see the clear image of our folly. Divided and conquered. The way many of us are so straight, the way it's awkward. Dumb, deaf, and blind. Why bother? Mind your manners. Gather together to agree. Elevate our standards. Looking at the burning embers. Honey, please explain to me what we're seeing in the camera. Innocent bodies of plastic. It's tragic. The gun clicks loudly when I've had it. Up to here. We need a restoration act of black black unification tactics. It's black, it's black. I'm black and I'm proud. It's black, it's black. I'm black and I'm proud. It's black, it's black. I'm black and I'm proud. It's black, it's black. I'm black. I bought a pack of matches, just enough to keep the light on. Illumination in the smart zone of the light dome. They say big things come in small packages. I say big things, he broken up the best piece and blasted with an undersaw, fully loaded. What's with the violent talk? I'm just joking, sort of. Break out the peace pipe, show some love. Notice how my lights keep zooming in and out of focus. Who gets the last laugh? Failed to duck the last jab. Get out my face. So what's really in the grab bag? A bag of Skittles and memories don't live like people do. And they know this. The reason they keep silencing, killing, and locking up the chosen. Hoping to delay the inevitable ass kicking. So can't get the picture. There's always a price to pay. The alternation of the night and day, like Marvin Gaye would say. There's far too many of us dying. The Camino denying. So soon as the Buddha pick crying. I'm looking at the red, the black, the green colors flying. I'm looking at the thunder, the storm, the lightning, and the heavens unifying. It's black, it's black. I'm black and I'm proud. It's black, it's black. I'm black and I'm proud. It's black, it's black. I'm black and I'm proud. It's black, it's black. It's black. Soul journey of life. Shout out to the NFAC, UBKN. You see the bigger picture, go figure. A strong black community just tastes bitter to the likes of little tykes blinded by the great white hype whenever we stand up to fight.
Wait, hold up. I got a question.
What's a life worth living when the world you're living is made up of so many who can't see the difference? Standing up for your own versus the hatred and bigotry in a land that claims to be for you and me. From sea to shining sea, the place is laced with the effects of the systemic races. So when a black man stands up, instead he's told to put your hands up, then he gets choked up and broke up. There's no love unless you be from among the docile, quick to throw in the towel, ducking and dodging to avoid fitting the profile. So I salute every black man and woman who understands the codes upon which we must stand. That reminds me, and I can never forget all those who stood up, sacrificing the comforts of life just to defend your rights and respect. And yet, where's everybody when it's time to really pull up and show up? Why can't we see that without true unity there's no luck? Hold up, they locking the folks who legally suit up and strap up. We gotta speak up and quit sleeping on the moves we need to take up. Wake up before you're next on the list to get hemmed up. For real, bro. United States versus John Johnson. Free John Johnson, aka Grandmaster Jay. The United States versus John Johnson. Free John Johnson, Grandmaster Jay. The United States versus John Johnson. Free John Johnson, aka Grandmaster Jay. The United States versus John Johnson. Free John Johnson, aka Grandmaster Jay.
This is a shout out to the general, a hell of an individual. And this is really pitiful. Hey, put your ear to the stereo. I know this may be liberal, I'm hoping you listen close. And he stood up for the beat, so I hope you don't turn cold. This ain't no clout chasing about facing. Oh yes, it's about race. Don't doubt say we bout making a couple outbreaks. But y'all say y'all better make sure he make it out. Saying it's about Jay. We don't mind breaking down every barricade. From the state to the federal, we see a bunch of cannabis. A system full of animals. We thinking they can handle it. See, they got the right. Don't think you fighting just one, cause the righteous do come. I got a light with two guns. They too dumb. Screw tight, but I'm about to lose one. See, we don't do front. No, we gotta do something. We coming with a new front. NFC choked up. It's a brand new revolution. We got a solution.
Love is unconditional. It's not something that comes with a guarantee. Unconditional love means that I don't expect perfection. Unconditional love means that I love you because you exist.
United States versus John Johnson. Free John Johnson, aka Grandmaster Jay. United States versus John Johnson. Free John Johnson, aka Grandmaster Jay. The United States versus John Johnson. Free John Johnson, aka Grandmaster Jay. United States versus John Johnson. Free John Johnson, aka Grandmaster Jay.
You all said that you wanted this love affair, and I told you I would never forsake you or leave you. And I said that even if you turn your back on me, I would still love you. Because of that, I was always told that when you're doing things that please the enemy, you won't have a problem in the world. But when you're doing those things that please the Most High, then you can expect that your address will be the only address that the enemy has.
call. Soul Journey of Light, Conscious Black Social Media. The LightDome.